Hello and welcome to Press Start Turbo. In today's episode we'll be talking about Layoffs, Palworld and some of the biggest game releases of January. Then we'll be talking to WoolieVersus about his experience in QA. Finally we'll be talking about Metal Gear Solid 3 as chosen by the Patreon. And today I'm joined by Jake, Brendan and Billy.
I can't believe we're talking about Layoffs again. It feels like it's the first episode all over again, and the second one.
I can't wait for the comments to say, "Hey, lay off on the layoffs."
The way the year's going, it's going to be we're going to be hard pressed not to be talking about layoffs every single episode, because it seems like every single week there is a new announcement.
Realistically, we're responsible for them because we keep talking. Sorry, game developers.
Yeah, we gotta stop talking about it.
It's our fault.
It's our fault. It's the fault of the 20-something.
It's the fault of the video game podcasters.
But since the last episode that we recorded, there have been two substantial layoffs that I've heard about, one being Riot and then one being the Microsoft layoffs, which hit Activision Blizzard the hardest, a company that was consolidated and acquired by Microsoft last year in kind of a deal that was touted by gamers as being like a good thing. I think it's mainly because of the PR spin that Phil Spencer was able to do. Where, you talk about Game Pass, like finally we get Call of Duty on Game Pass, and there isn't a lot of thought to how this will actually affect the people that make the video games.
Oh, dude, Xbox is going to make the video games so good. Like all of their notable hits over the last 10 years, like Hi-Fi Rush. And
what did they release
Crackdown
last
3.
Remember Sunset Overdrive?
I don't.
Rise, Son of Rome.
Rise, Son of Rome.
Yes, Rise. It's kind of crazy to me how well they spun all this shit to be like, Phil Spencer's your friend. Look at him on the stage. He has the Goofy Gamer shirt. He's like you. He has the Deadpool shirt that says taco on it.
Phil Spencer is like the perfect figurehead for them because he's just like, he's I want to call him almost Cyborg Todd Howard. Because
what?
Okay, he has all of the charisma that Todd Howard has, but in like a vacuum.
Yes.
And it's like, hello, gamers, when we gamers, ready for games for the gamers.
This is the year of gamers.
World premiere. And then there's just a picture of Phil Spencer's asshole. Spread.
I fucking wish, dude. I fucking wish.
Forza.
But yeah, the layoff for Microsoft was the biggest one of the two, affecting almost 2,000 employees across the board. The biggest places hit were their customer service departments, which was the one thing that Blizzard was known for doing very well and having their own internal like customer service and support teams that have now been like completely gutted. But I find the most notable thing about this, and the way it differentiates from the other layoffs that we've talked about in these last few episodes, is the CWA, which is the union that represents a large number of employees at Activision Blizzard who worked with Microsoft when they were doing the merger, and actually were weirdly champions of it in some ways, but none of their members were actually affected by the layoff. And this, in part, is due to one of the provisions that not necessarily in part of it, but the way that we knew immediately that none of them were affected is that they have to give notice to union members ahead of time if they're going to be laid off. And no union member was ever contacted, so none of them were affected. And I think if there's like one silver lining from these things, is that it looks like collective organization within video games where there hasn't been any representation seems to be working in favor of the workers in this scenario, and is like just an example of why this kind of thing is super important. But it's still like almost 2,000 employees. You know, we look at these mergers and stuff like that as if they're going to be, you know, oh man, I'm going to get Master Chief in my Call of Duty game.
It's never as simple as that. There's always fat cat at the top that's going to make it. Like a lot of these mergers and acquisitions almost always end with like mass layoffs. I know that for this one especially, like wasn't like Toys for Bob the ones that just got fucking destroyed completely. They don't exist anymore.
A lot of the Call of Duty support studios like High Moon, Sledgehammer, and all that lost like big percentages. Which is, I mean, yeah, it's just what happens because they spend like billions of dollars to close these deals out, and now it turns to them to be like, all right, how do we make a profit? And like, you know, they always use terms like efficiency or streamline, you know, that kind of stuff. And what it just means is we're gonna cut labor costs.
Yeah, I mean that's always the easiest way to make more money, get rid of people.
Yeah, it's not healthy because it's not something that can last. It's not sustainable in any way.
I figure that since I'm in tech, I might be able to provide some perspective on, you know, what this does to the job market.
Yeah.
In brief, I'm in tech. I've been in tech for 4 years. And if you're not already aware, tech companies for software development roles, they will put forward, they'll ask you to do a coding challenge, like in your own time as part of the employment process. Usually they ask for somewhere between like 2 and 8 hours of your time just spent doing a challenge. And so I'm looking for a job at the moment, and I did a coding challenge very recently. They asked me to basically code the rules to Monopoly in roughly 2 hours. And when I submitted this, the person, you know, the hiring manager got back to me and said, this code is like as good as some of our applicants who have 10 plus years of experience. But the problem is that we've had 150 applicants in 1 week. And so I'm competing with people with 10 plus years experience who are submitting code which is absolutely perfect, you know, backed by massive amounts of experience. And so, you know, this particular hiring manager was really kind. They were basically saying, there's no room in the market for me with only 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the experience this is what happens to software developers when the market is completely flooded with these people who've been laid off.
Yeah, and that's actually an important point, is that the people who are being laid off aren't just, you know, the lower rungs of the development or studio. There are people with years of experience.
Yeah. These support studios for Call of Duty, they have actual, like, they have people working there that have worked on gigantic projects. It's not like you hear support studios in your head, you're like, oh, it's just like, it's a support studio. They're like secondary, but no, these are the talent in those studios is immense.
Yeah, I believe that Raven Software, which just works on Call of Duty now, I think they used to work on Quake or something.
Raven have made
a lot
so
of games.
so many games.
Wolfenstein 2009 and Singularity.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Star Trek Voyager Elite Force and
Let's
Quake
go!
4.
X-Men Legends. Fuck yeah. No, I mean, they're just like, they're this studio that is super revered in like the FPS sphere because they've done, like, Raven has worked on so many like big games, and they have like such a stupid amount of talent. Like they made fucking Hexen, Heretic, all those games, Soldier of Fortune, and then they got put into the so-called Call of Duty mines, and they've been just like, now they're just being gutted.
Yeah,
it's so fucking depressing.
And a lot of people were I mean, for righteous reasons, congratulating and like celebrating like the change to Microsoft because of, you know, how poorly led Blizzard has been by people like Bobby Kotick, who has now obviously left Activision Blizzard. Now just to like, you know, these same people that were celebrating this stuff now just don't have a job anymore, and it's pretty awful.
And a lot of the times, the worst part is like a lot of these people, when they get hired, they get asked like, "Hey, you have to relocate to our studios, and like you have to bring your whole family like over to this new place. And when the project ends, you're just gonna get fired." And that's something that happens constantly.
Can you imagine being asked to move to LA? Like, absolutely,
LA of all fucking places,
the highest living costs in the fucking world, and then redundancy.
3 years after, 5 years after, it's over. You're done. It's so man.
They had the return to office mandates as well that apparently from what I've heard, nobody affected by the recent return to office mandates was hit by the layoffs, but ones that were hit that did have that return to office but was earlier, like last year, so they would have moved in April of last year, some of them have been hit by layoffs, but luckily none of the people like who were there. They had like one that happened at the start of this year, I think. None of them were affected, luckily. But yeah, it's still like, you know, you can imagine people uprooting their lives. Apparently, like one guy, I was just reading a story in Aftermath that's like one dude just like has been there barely for a month and just immediately gets laid off. It's like, what kind of experience is that? Like, you can't even, like, that guy's gonna have an incredibly hard time getting another job because of, you know, the inflated job market, and then also like the experience that they have is only a month. It's just, you know,
this whole situation is
I know someone personally who got laid off from their job in tech and then got a new job and got laid off 3 weeks after starting.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's fucking devastating.
It's just,
either way.
And this is just, it's going to be a reoccurring story as the industry continues in the same trajectory it has for the last few years, and until there's like, I don't know, like I don't even know what can like.
It's gonna have to be a revolution or something. It's like, I mean, what the fuck else are we gonna do? We're kind of in a situation where changes have to happen, and it's gonna have to be like big changes. Again,
the silver lining of this is that worker organization and unionization has definitely protected people in this instance, and hopefully people can look to that and see how they might want to unionize their own workplace, even if like you think that you have it good, or you know your studio treats you well. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day when, you know, these companies are run for one reason, and that is to make profit, and they don't inherently care about your well-being or like your job security, and the only one who can is yourself, you know?
Yep, they only care about one thing, and it's the bottom line, and it's not surprising, it's just disappointing.
Yes.
Either way, let's talk about something else, something more fun. Let's talk about the death of physical media by the hands of the same people who just fired 2,000 people.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go into like some of the cool games that came out in January.
We're talking about Microsoft. We're talking shit about Microsoft. Let's keep it going.
Okay, fair enough.
So Microsoft just announced. Well, I don't think they even announced it. It's kind of been a story that people have been slowly like unraveling as it happens. Like Microsoft basically shut down most of the departments dedicated to bringing Xbox games to physical. So a lot of people are saying that Microsoft is going for digital only in the next few iterations of the Xbox. And I mean, with what they're doing now, it's pretty clear that that's what's happening. Specifically, Walmart has been getting rid of all its copies of Starfield.
Yes.
By getting rid of it's like this game. When did it release? Like super recently, right?
Starfield was last year. It was November.
Last year,
November or December. Like around there.
This is a brand new fucking game. Walmart is getting rid of copies by selling them for 3 cents. and any copy that they can't sell, they're just gonna fucking destroy.
We should say this is reports from like an internal memo that was leaked from Walmart, saying that they were going to remove and discard like all Starfield Xbox like physical media, and then on one specific day they'd sell them for 3 cents.
Yep. It's and any like I said, anything that doesn't get sold they're just going to destroy those copies.
Oh, another thing too is I'm reading about the Walmart store, and it appears that there was an internal memo from a couple of days ago where this is just a part of Walmart's normal like markdown procedures. Because apparently there's another different version of Starfield that will be replacing that one. So this is two things about like this regarding Microsoft. One, Microsoft has not officially stated anything about removing physical media. They've laid off their team regarding physical media, but like they're still going to outsource it.
Yes.
I believe Limited Run also still said, hey, regardless of whatever Microsoft does, like even if they're phasing out physical media, we're still going to be offering physical media as it is available or as we are available to. And then this is just a normal thing that happens in retail, is when you have a bunch of copies and a new version of that comes in, you will discount them and throw them away and recycle them. As somebody who worked in games retail especially,
that I remember hearing a lot about that. Like people, because isn't there like a thing where people like go behind GameStops in the dumpster and just kind of, because I remember seeing that.
So there, GameStop and a lot of retailers, what they will do is it won't be thrown away. Like a lot of people will say, a lot of physical media that won't sell will be sent to a recycling facility. There are a lot of different, like, i.e. when GameStop phased out PSP games, and they were like, okay, we're getting rid of all of our PSP games. We sent all of them to distro warehouses. And then once they received the distro, they would send off a bunch of, okay, so like good Final Fantasy game on the PSP, they throw it up on the website. The 38 copies of Barbershop the movie on UMD still sealed that my store had, those were recycled. Nobody needs 38 copies of Barbershop on UMD.
You're fucking lying. It's all at your home, isn't it?
It's all at my house.
You have a shelf of Barbershop,
He's
don't
got
you?
every single copy of King Kong.
A lot of the GameStop dumpster diving videos, as somebody who worked there for a long period of time, a lot of them are faked. GameStop will not throw away product that they can sell. They will throw away and recycle products, like when we had 180 copies of Battlefield 3 because everybody was trading it in, 180 to 200 copies of the last Madden game, because when the new game comes out, everybody comes in and trades their old one and nobody's buying the old one, so you got to throw it away or recycle it or get rid of it. They're like also like people would find headphones in GameStop dumpers with the cord cut, and inside those dumpers, the cord cut headphones would oftentimes be the test headphones from like the Turtle Beach displays, not actual Turtle Beach headphones.
Oh, I see.
Now, of course, this is my specific store. We were really careful about what we threw away. The worst thing that I think we were supposed to do was it was Corpo's policy to destroy strategy guides that were quote unquote pennied out and then throw them away. Whereas our store, this isn't true of every store. Our store would just keep them.
What do you mean by pennied out?
So pennied out is similar to what Walmart did. It's a term used in retail when something is going to super clearance. It's not actually meant to be sold. Like Walmart is selling their copies for 3 cents. That's like those specific copies of Starfield are 3 cents, but they're being recycled or thrown away. Walmart's not going to actually put them on the shelf for 3 cents, except in some cases where they somehow get out there. I.e., when we had strategy guides and they went down to 1 penny for their price, we weren't supposed to keep them out on the shelves for people to buy. We were supposed to send them back to distro or destroy them. Instead, our manager at my store would buy all of them and then just give them to employees who wanted them. And that's on a store-by-store basis, of course. Like, that's up to the manager rather than up to, like, the company. Yeah. The company stance is throw this away. Most of this media that is supposed to get destroyed isn't destroyed because employees want it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say that the signs that the people are moving towards digital, especially these companies, comes from things like Alan Wake's 2 release, or that Hellblade
Senua.
2. Yeah, Hellblade 2 is not going to be getting a physical release either, which it feels like they're dipping their toes and seeing, like, you know, it's a weighing game of will the negative backlash versus how much we save from not producing physical copies to, you know, how much more we make from digital releases, especially these platform holders like Microsoft and PlayStation, where when you buy a game on the Microsoft storefront or the PlayStation storefront, they take a fucking chunk out of it's like Steam or any other kind of like platform like that. They're going to be taking a percentage, and they do take a percentage from physical sales of games on their platforms as well, but there is a cost involved obviously with physical media
manufacturing.
Manufacturing and putting in storefronts,
and then the stores cut.
Stores takes a cut. So
stores cut for physical games is about $10.
Yeah.
Oh, that's way more than I thought.
When I worked at Best Buy, we got a 5% discount. It was 5% above cost, so we would pay for the item for whatever Best Buy played it plus like 5%. And I think new video games were like $52.
Oh, I see.
So it's anywhere from like
$8
$10 to $12. $8 to $12 is how much like a store will take from a cut from physical media.
If I'm honest though, like as much as like I played it up at the start with like, oh, look at what they're taking from us. Realistically, when I can't even think about the last time I got a physical game, unless it's like a game that I'm like massively in love with, and I know I like, let's say I fucking don't know. The new Yakuza game, like a special edition of that, like for me, of course, I'm gonna be like, fuck yeah, I want a physical. I love Yakuza.
I love Like a Dragon.
I feel like most of the games I've been buying recently are all digital. I totally get why people are moving towards online. I mean, I don't like that we don't actually own the games.
The problem with digital versus physical is digital allows you the convenience, whereas physical, you have a physical copy of the game and they can't just take that from you if the license expires.
Yeah, but also I don't have the space in my apartment.
I mean, it's not even just the license expiring. It's like we talked about this last episode with the Nintendo storefront and the access to these games.
When that storefront's down,
there's no archive.
Gone.
Yeah. There's no archival anything.
God, you know how hard it is to buy a digital game on a PS3? Have I explained that process before?
I've done it. It's a pain in the fucking ass.
You have to buy PlayStation gift cards. You can't just put a credit card in the PlayStation store anymore because they don't want those. They don't want to pay for the processing servers for them.
Such a fucking annoying mess. I was just like, I want to buy Breath of Fire 4 because I haven't played that game since I was a kid. Dude, the process made me think like, I don't want to fucking do it anymore. It was such a pain. Oh well, video games. You know how it'd be.
Speaking of video games, there have been some good ones that have come out.
It's kind of like crazy how stacked this month has been. We got Tekken 8, we got Like a Dragon 8, Infinite Wealth. We got Ace Attorney, Apollo Justice Trilogy. What else is there?
Enshrouded.
Is Enshrouded out?
Yeah, Enshrouded's out. It's out in early access.
Prince of Persia came out.
I forgot about Prince of Persia. You're right.
Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League will be out by the time this episode comes out.
Home Safety Hotline. I like that one a lot.
Fuck yeah. We got Persona on the horizon, Final Fantasy. Dude, what a stacked, like, the first 3 months of this year are just insane right now. I want to start by... I want to start real quick by talking about Apollo Justice Ace Attorney Trilogy. I want to thank Capcom for sending me an early copy of the game to try out and talk about on this show. Although, to be quite honest, I was going to buy it anyways because last year I played the remastered trilogy for the first time, and when I hit that final case in Trials and Tribulation, it was like I was like staring at peak the entire time. That game is incredible, dude. I don't know have you guys played those games?
Yeah, I played the original trilogy.
It's fucking, dude. It's kind of peak, dude. It kind of never lets like. It keeps moving on up and has like this overarching story that I did not expect. And it has such a good fucking payoff. I was going to get Apollo Justice anyways, just because of that. Because I've been wanting to play the 3DS games because, you know, the eShop is closed. So you can't really. So I checked the remasters out. I think they did a really fucking good job compared to the remastered that they did last time. The art is actually good this time around, like on the DS game, the Apollo Justice game. Because the remastered last time, it was it felt like a rush job with the art. Like it was really ugly, and you could see like
Yeah,
the shading was so fucked.
I just wish for the I don't know if they've done it for Apollo Justice. I assume not, but for the original trilogy, I wish there was
Pixel
like
art?
an option. Yeah, for pixel art.
Yeah, they don't do that, but on Apollo Justice, the first game, if you play like, because I've been playing on Switch, and you can still see the like the pixels on like individual pixels on the art while you're playing. It's higher res, but you can still see that it is like
That's the game with the
pixel
clown
art.
girl, right?
Oh, fuck off!
Okay, just making sure.
Why are you so clown pilled?
How
That's
far
all I
through
know.
did you? How far through did you get, Billy?
I got to the third case of Apollo Justice. But I don't want to talk about those games really, because mentioning anything about these games is a spoiler really. All I'm going to say is if anybody has played the Kirby Dream Collection on the Wii, and if you've seen like how much love was put into that package for like Kirby's anniversary, this trilogy of remasters is basically like the same. Like it's honestly crazy how much love there is. You can get like the museum has all the music from every single fucking game in the collection, and it's really fucking well remastered and reorchestrated, especially the DS games, because DS rips of music kind of sound bad. But yeah, no, it's honestly a fantastic package, and I recommend it. I recommend playing, like, even though I don't like the art in the first trilogy, I still recommend playing it because fuck, it's so peak. It's so fun.
Yeah, those games are really good.
Great few games.
Jake, how much of you've played through Apollo Justice before, right?
Yeah, I've played through all of the games that are in that collection. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Where would you put them in terms of compared to the original trilogy?
Give us your official Nova Canoe rankings.
Yeah, I need the Nova Canoe opinion.
So I think that all of them are less peak than the original trilogy. Apollo Justice has some really, really good moments, and it's also quite short. So, like, it's definitely worth playing.
Yeah, that's one thing that I immediately clocked, and I was really happy about. It only has 4 cases, but so far all the cases are very they're very they're condensed and very fun.
That was kind of my issue with the one they did just before that with Herlock Sholmes. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh,
the,
Great Ace Attorney.
Yeah, is that there's some really good moments in those games, and I like it. It is a bit long in the tooth though. It is like because it's 2 games, and then each one has like 5 cases, I think.
Yeah, that the 3DS games went for like 5 cases each. And the problem with that is that there's also, I mean, the third case syndrome, there's a reason why it exists. It's I don't know, because you have like the third case always has to tie in the start of the game with the end of the game, and like with the overarching story, and it's just I don't know. There's issues with the third case always. I haven't gotten there with Apollo Justice, but I wouldn't be surprised if the third case also has that.
I feel like people are going to get mad at us if we don't talk about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And I think, Brendan, I think you've been playing a bit of it, right?
I have.
Yeah, he's been streaming it.
I've been streaming it at twitch.tv/BrenDaniel.
I've been avoiding everything about that game because I really don't want to be spoiled.
It's so fucking good. It's so dense. It's like biting into a big moist cake, and there's like secret cake inside the cake.
It is actually fucking crazy how massive that game is.
Getting to the food delivery sub game just already.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Literally just Crazy Taxi with the main character from Crazy Taxi in it.
Because I did dip my toes into that game a bit because, you know, you finish Like a Dragon Gaiden, and then it's like, oh, here's a little tasting platter of what you can expect in the game, and you
Like
play
a Dragon
like,
Gaiden. I'm thinking Like a Dragon Man Cave is the next one.
Shut up!
The way you said Gaiden, Like a Dragon Gaiden.
I don't fucking know. Yeah, it's like my little Gaiden. I got my little neon that says "I love me wife."
I got my beers.
Love
I
me
got
wife.
my big chair. I got my 32-inch Vizio TV. I'm playing Yakuza, baby.
Love me wife, but sometimes I gotta Sometimes I gotta, go in the man cave. It's
I
me
gotta
time.
snap my fingers. Wife, bring me beers. The Hawkeye game is on. I get it.
The Hawkeye game is on?
Hyper Midwestern. That's one of the Iowa football teams.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, Infinite Wealth. It continues like the turn-based stuff from the original, like a Dragon, and Ichiban is still my favorite character. There's something to be said about how I am easily impressed by just what if this story was about guys being dudes and friends hanging out. I wish more video games would have the like cast of characters on a road trip kind of aesthetic, or cast of characters on a journey aesthetic, because as somebody who's incredibly bored by Dragon Quest, whereas like a Dragon and like a Dragon Infinite Wealth take so much from Dragon Quest, it really is about how the characters are and how they're portrayed is why I'm more interested.
Those games are so charming. Like the just like the road trip aesthetic and everything is so charming. One thing I did not like about the original, like Yakuza 8 or 7, I don't fucking remember. What
7?
How many games?
You call
too
it
many fucking games.
The
dude.
official name
Like
is
a
Yakuza
Dragon.
Like a Dragon.
Okay, fine. Yakuza Like a Dragon. One of my problems with it was the combat system having so many skills that were completely useless, or like had another version that was better than the other version, but it was still in your menu. Basically, too much menu time. Did they fix that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of the ways that combat works now, like especially Kiryu, he fights very, very interestingly. Like I fucking love how in the turn-based, Ichiban has his standard kind of hero loadout. I haven't unlocked new jobs yet. For Ichiban, but Kiryu, he is turn-based, but his job, Dragon of Dojima, allows you to pick Brawler, Rush, and Beast mode.
Oh, that's cool.
And when you do Beast, it does guard breaks. When you do Rush mode, you can get 2 attacks in. And when you do Brawler, it's like your big attacks. So you can switch that up as you need to, as Kiryu specifically. And then I'm sure once I open up the job system more and stop getting catfished by chickens, then I will definitely enjoy the game even more.
What?
Oh, there's like a Tinder mini game, and I got catfished by a homeless man, a man wearing bondage,
That
and then
fucking
finally
rocks.
a chicken on a cell phone. And then I thought I got catfished again, and then it played a hyper FMV of a woman showing me her cleavage.
Yeah, dude,
damn.
like Gaiden did the same thing. Where
I didn't have
like,
a case
the
on the
cabaret-
VTuber in it too, as one of the cabaret people, but she's just a character in this.
What?
Yeah, there's a VTuber. There's a VTuber who's literally just a. There's actually, if I could, without spoiling, if I was going to explain Infinite Wealth so far to somebody without spoiling, I'd say you get canceled by a VTuber and get fucking sent to Hawaii.
That fucking rocks.
It's such
I
a
love
cool
that.
fucking game.
It's a good sell. It's a good sell.
These games are so fucking. It's like they.
This is
you know
the
how
game that
people
will take
have
down the VTuber empire.
People have this the rule of cool. This game has the rule of fun. Like they always do the most fun option, and it's really fucking cool.
If I can say one negative thing about it, and this is just true of most
you're
like a
just
Dragon
being
video
contrarian.
games. No.
Fine.
One negative thing. I think that the front segment of the game, the first 3 chapters, has like an hour too much of cutscene. It's like
So it's a Yakuza game,
It
is
is.
it?
Well, it is, but it's like I'm used to like 2 hours like of cutscene and introduction, and this was like 5 hours of cutscene and introduction.
Oh,
Like it
man.
takes a long time for it to
the
get
MGS3
over like
experience.
the scenes.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. MGX.
It's so many, like, and it's like, okay, and it's way worse than previous games where you'd cutscene, walk a little bit, cutscene. This is cutscene, loading screen, cutscene, walk a little bit, cutscene. I'm like, I get it.
Oh
I
my
understand
God.
it. Some of this, not that it could have been cut, but some of this could have gotten a little tightened up. It's my only negative because I am 13 hours in and I still haven't unlocked the ability to change jobs.
Yikes! Yeah, it does seem like the game has a lot of. I mean, with how massive they said the game was going to be in the first place, I've never felt fear like I have when they announced
This is the
100
biggest
something
game.
hours. Yeah, this is the biggest game. 100 hours. You will literally never play another game in your fucking life. This is your job now. It's like, oh,
I still
cool.
love every cutscene, but if you have experience with like a Dragon or video games like it, then you know that there is. I have ADHD brain, so I get a little bit of the, like cutscene fatigue. I need moments interspersed. I can't just cutscene. My brain will turn
totally
off. I
get
gotta
that.
like go and punch a guy for like 3 minutes at least.
At least.
But like that's not even a real negative. That's a tiny little nitpick. That's a gamer sin. Otherwise, I really enjoy it. 13 hours in, and I do totally recommend it. I cannot fucking wait to get into it some more. Really sink my teeth into it. Another video game that is new that I played that I mentioned, Enshrouded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you talked about that really quickly, and I was surprised that it even came out. Sorry.
This is the survival crafting early access game, right?
Yes.
The other one that came out this month.
The other one that came out this month. It's
Gotcha.
neat. I like that. I like the building in it. I don't really like anything else about it. I couldn't get super into it. I tried really hard to figure out like that resource gathering is a major point, of survival crafting games. In the first like 5 hours I played, I couldn't figure out how to fucking get metal. And then I figured out you can't just like mine metal. You can dig a hole, but you can't like dig a hole for metal unless you find a specific area later in the game. Otherwise, it's like I'm digging up flintstone and killing enemies and waiting for the enemies to respawn. It's survival crafting. I'm sure it gets a little bit better, and it's definitely got to be a lot better with friends. But I was kind of meh on it in general. The wingsuit's cool.
I didn't even know that it came out. I just remember hearing about it before it came out. Then it came out, and you're the only one that talks about it. So
I heard about it, and then it kind of got enshrouded, some might say, by another survival crafting game called Palworld.
Palworld!
Can I just say before we start this, the first thing I did when I came back from MagFest was go into the Press Start Turbo recording chat and say, I veto any conversation about Palworld. And then they both grabbed me, put me on the floor, and just started spewing their bile in my face. And now we have to talk about it.
I fully understand why you had that reaction, Billy, because it has been the dominant thing on Twitter discourse for the last fucking week and a half. And
my real issue with it is that there has been like every single side of the argument is just rife with misinformation and like just straight up lies, which is crazy to me. I don't understand why we're just going around lying.
Yeah.
And also there's another, one of the big problems I think is that there's this game of telephone happening right now, because the thing is, Palworld is from a small independent Japanese studio. They don't have like they basically all their PR for American, like their American stuff is probably not actually like going through them. It's probably going through like a secondary whatever. And by the time something is said on Twitter, the Palworld devs will know about it, and they can't really like talk about it until like. And also the way they like their blogs that of like the postmortem of Palworld is all Japanese, and a lot of people are reading the postmortem through Google Translate because there's no official localization or translation of those posts. So now we have another problem where on top of like the people spreading misinformation and lies, there's also a game of telephone with the actual devs going on. And basically the whole discussion is completely, God.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. I hate it here. It's just, it's so complicated right now around here.
Specifically, what you're referring to is there are allegations against this game that it was using AI tools and creation to create its art, which people have been talking about. It's in relation to Pokemon, that it's been plagiarizing the work and taking the what is it called?
Models.
Yeah, taking the models and then just slightly changing them, or specifically, people were saying that they were getting an AI to slightly change them, which there has been no real evidence towards the AI part. Obviously, I mean, anyone who has eyes can look at the Palworld creatures and be like, yeah,
it's Pokemon.
It's Pokemon. Like, that's clearly what they were going for. In the same, and Nintendo has since released a statement. Since this game, which I think a big fucking part of the story is that this game is incredibly successful.
Insanely! It is still the most played game on Steam as of recording this right now.
Yes,
it's ridiculous how popular and successful this game is.
Over 6 million copies sold last time I checked. I have no idea what it's at the moment.
It could be more.
It could be more by the time. In fact, it probably will be more by the time this episode comes out.
Absolutely.
But people were pointing to that, and so then there's it's kind of weird because out of these allegations of AI and stuff like that, and plagiarism and copyright, which copyright law is a kind of nebulous thing to talk about in a lot of ways because it's very much based on subjective opinions of it depends on if a judge thinks it's close enough to warrant there being any kind of copyright infringement. It also relies on has this actively taken away from the profits or has anyone who's bought Palworld instead of buying Pokemon because it has Pokemon like characters in it, essentially, is what it comes down to, which is incredibly difficult to prove.
It's pretty much
nebulous.
It's pretty much impossible to prove.
Yeah.
And then with both companies being Japanese as well, there's not really
the
fair
laws are
use
going to
laws.
be different for them.
So the laws are going to be different over there. I will say the discourse is really interesting just on the sheer amount of IP lawyers who are getting numbers on TikTok.
I've seen a few of them.
They are.
IP lawyers are having a great fucking time.
Dude, they're just clout chasing. Shut up about Palworld, bud.
But it's weird how this discourse has evolved because it's kind of degenerated into two camps of people who are claiming that it was made with AI, and then people who, instead of being there isn't actually any evidence to that, instead going, no, that's actually cool, and game developers are lazy for not using AI.
Yeah, it feels like this is the most devolved a conversation about a game has ever gotten. It's actually fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's you're looking at it from... I see it as people looking at it from different lenses. And one lens being that of the consumer, the person who is getting the end product, doesn't care, they've just gone to fucking Wendy's or wherever, and they don't give a shit how the burger got made. They just care that they're putting it into their mouth and it tastes okay. Or tastes like food, I guess. The other lens to look at it is, do we care about how art is being made? And does that actually affect the output of product? Because and this kind of stems from this viral video that made the rounds online, where Asmongold basically said essentially, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. The artist's opinion doesn't matter. What just matters is that the game is good and that I'm let people play it. Which I guess viewed from the lens of a consumer kind of makes sense. Apart from when you look at it from the fact that people are the reason why art is good and the reason why games are good is because of the input of artists and creators.
Because of art. Most of the games that you play have art direction, an art department. Without the art department, you have nothing. You have absolutely fucking nothing. Even just I'm sorry, but even just game design, as a theory, as a thing, designing a game is art.
Yes.
It's it drives me crazy that people say artists and they don't think about how the entirety of making a game is art. There is not a part to it except marketing, I'd argue, where it's not art. It drives me fucking crazy.
Right. I want to do a little thought experiment, and that is to take the position that, let's say, Palworld used AI to change and edit their pals to look like, to change them from Pokemon. The input for that AI is still someone else's artwork, right? Like, we're still basing it on someone who has spent time and effort designing these creatures. All you've done with your tool is say, change these modifiers. You know, so if we were to take AI to the logical conclusion of, now if we fuck all these artists, it's way cheaper just to use AI. These gamers, they don't give a shit about the output. They've said so themselves. Let's just train AI on other AI. It's just like, it's going to be a self-defeating Ouroboros where it's just all the art's going to look exactly the same, just slightly modified, and be really fucking boring. Like, it's just not going to...
It's going to become homogenized.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the skill in this hypothetical future would become being good at prompting the AI.
I'm going to vomit.
Right.
Man.
But even then, it's just like, you're going to get similar results to someone else. Maybe yours looks slightly better, or maybe you after the AI prompt came through or whatever, you edit it slightly. That's still like, I don't know, like, then you're viewing it as a tool rather than the art, and you're not even like, there's still people working on that thing. I don't know, I just don't see it. I think I see this kind of argument as one that's very short-sighted and not looking towards how, or not even understanding what they themselves like about things. Because I remember in the argument, he talks about like Marvel movies as if those still aren't culminations of like hundreds of people's work.
Yeah, there's still like hundreds of people are working on it. There's still artistry to it.
I am a consumer. I want to consume. I want my infinite generative content, and I want it now. Put me in the Wally chair. Gimme.
Yeah.
I think the process of how art is created is just as important as the art that is being created. And I think as we go forward and AI becomes more prevalent, at least to me personally, that is going to become a more important aspect of the things that I'm looking for and find enjoyable. And I just kind of hope that once this stuff comes to that kind of conclusion, people will look at it and realize that, like, oh shit, I don't actually like this. I like the thing that it is stealing from, in a way.
Yeah.
I still think, like, we haven't seen a lot of AI in the courts yet,
Yes.
especially regarding art. And I think that a lot of it's going to happen at some point, but I think that
it's
AI
gonna happen probably sooner than we think, because there's been this
The Taylor Swift thing?
isn't the government the Biden thing.
Yeah, no, that is to do
there
with
was
Taylor
like
Swift.
President. Oh,
Yeah, so
yeah, it was deepfake
it
porn
was,
of Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that was making its rounds on Twitter. It was AI created porn of Taylor Swift, and now I believe the Biden administration is looking into it, and there will be legislation probably.
I was talking about the telemarketer AI that was just going around, and it was like Biden telling you to not go vote for like a certain person or whatever, and then the government were talking about like, oh, we should probably look into this AI thing.
Yes. All of these cases are going to basically create the foundation for the because like at the moment it's the fucking Wild West. You can do whatever you want pretty much, and there isn't a lot of recourse.
Biden stopped playing Fortnite, and he's just calling you and asking you to stop voting for.
He finally got Old Snake and closed the game.
With the future of AI, I think that once legislation is passed, it's going to end up being utilized by companies cannibalizing their own products.
Yes.
Like, I think that's, you look at like when Marvel used it for Secret Wars, and it was AI in like the opening for Secret Wars, but it was just them using art that they owned in the algorithm. I think it's going to become a lot more segmented and a lot more non-utilized directly by the consumer, and more big corporations saying, fuck it, we need something out by tomorrow. Cannibalize some art that we've already used, throw it in the algorithm and see what it generates. See if you can generate something good. It'll be faster than paying somebody to have it out by tomorrow.
I'm okay with that, because that's going to be like Ouroboros eating its own tail. Like, it's going to get homogenized so fast because everybody's going to...
Well, not even homogenized, but as like, companies will still have to hire artists, because the AI isn't going to be able to do specifically everything they want to do, because there won't be any art for them to cannibalize.
I think beyond the like practical concerns, which are to be clear, the most important concerns, like people having jobs. I think that, like, one thing that will become clear about AI generated art is that the moment that someone says, I generated this book or this image with AI, it means nothing. Like, it has no meaning, and it's like it's not worth casting an interpretive eye or a critical eye over that piece of art, because there's nothing to be read into it. There's nothing to be gained. There's no interpreting a piece of AI art to like mean something about its creator. It's just this soulless, sort of substanceless piece of art, which is generated entirely utilitarian style. And so, if a movie was entirely generated by AI, that might be like interesting to write news articles about, but nobody's going to write film criticism about it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing on the other end. There's nothing to connect
There's no
to.
humanity.
There's nothing to be read into it.
The big part
Yeah.
about like this weird shift, I feel like people say they don't want, like people say they just want their slop or whatever the fuck, but like I think people want art more than they think, or more than they want to admit, especially like on Twitter, where right now it's popular to be the contrarian and be like, oh no, AI is fucking epic and it's the future. Like, sure, the technology is interesting, I guess, but like, at the end of the day, you're going to the media you consume, you will always gravitate towards something that had a vision by a human and that shows signs of humanity. And a machine will be fucking hard pressed to even shit something out with humanity.
Well, it's like it's like when they started Seinfeld AI, and I was like, this is kind of funny, and I watched it for about 10 to 20 minutes, and I was like, okay, I never need to watch this ever again.
Well, and just to wrap it all up, it is just that point of, there are people who view video games not as art that is made by people, but as things to be consumed and then discarded. And I think, especially from, people who value, these are the same people that like do the fucking $1 1 hour argument, or, this game's only 8 hours long. Why am I paying $100 for it? Or whatever, you're $60 in America. And
I mean, I feel like because of AI becoming more and more prevalent and people having these discussions, I do think it's good that people are having these discussions, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of self-realization by people who think like that when it actually, like when products start really pushing AI. I feel like there's going to be a point where these people are going to have this like realization of like, oh shit, I miss when this was like human, when there was an aspect of art in this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can already see that with like the death of live service games, where these are games curated specifically for the kind of people who don't want to think about their games, just want to get the fucking level ups and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's valid escapism. I'm never gonna take it away from people who want like the next season. I don't know Destiny, but I assume Destiny is like that.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people I'm friends with tell me about Destiny, and they tell me like, I play Destiny specifically because I'm in a voice call with my friends. It's the end of the day. I just finished my shift at whatever, and I'm just having a good time talking with friends and not thinking about what I'm doing, getting my levels up. That's so valid.
All right. I think that's a good place to call it. From here, we're going to be talking to WoolieVersus about his experience in QA.
I can't wait to hear about WoolieVersus and his experiences with QA.
Welcome to the interview portion of the show. Today we're joined by Woolie. You may know him from his stream and YouTube channel WoolieVersus, or his podcast with Pat, House of Super Beast. But today he's here to talk about his history in QA. Welcome to the show, Woolie.
Hello.
I'm
yes.
sorry, you said pork.
You said pork.
I did.
I've heard a pork.
Would
about
you
it.
like to do that again?
Oh man.
Hey, well,
we can just
we're all
we can just
human
roll
here.
with it. We
We're all
just pork
human.
up.
You want to?
Let's just pork up, bro. We're porking hard. Let's go.
Whoa!
All
We're
right.
doing what?
Okay. I'm
All
sorry.
right.
I'm not used to the concept of pausing and or editing on anything I do, so I'm just like,
No, it's okay. We'll roll with it. I don't care.
No, anything to fuck with Cameron, we'll keep it in.
perfect.
It's true. It's true. And we're here to talk about your history in QA and not your YouTube stuff, which is a bit different, I feel, from what you'd mainly be interviewed for.
Yeah, spent just as much time wasted in my life in that side of things too. But I can talk a little bit. I might know one or two things about QA.
Oh, just to get started, I'm like interested in your entry into QA. Like, how'd you get into it? What your decision making was for that, or and then like just from there.
Well, step one, thank you for calling it QA and not Q&A, which a lot of people, for some reason, can't seem to distinguish between the concept of a question and answers and get that wrong all the time. It's kind of funny.
I was gonna say for a second, I was like, I don't see what's wrong, and then you said it, I was like, oh shit.
Question and answers.
You're right. Not even the same.
Quality
same acronym.
assurance.
Yeah, completely different.
But it's brains, fudge that up all the time.
Yeah.
I got in because I was like, yo, testing video games, that sounds like a blast. And, more to the point, I mean, look, I went to college, I got an art degree, that worked out, clearly. And then after not being able to find any work in that for a while, I was like, okay, let's find a gig. And there was entry-level game testing positions. There's a place nearby in Montreal that was hiring. And I went and I gave it a shot because I know a thing or two about video games. So that was pretty much it. It was just cold walk in.
Was this a internal QA team, or was this an external like outsourcing QA?
Yeah, started with outsourcing. So the first part of my career was all third party, and I went to work for. So it was at the time the company was called Babel Media, but I think they're called Keywords now. I think since they got bought out. It was outsourcing. So that means, of course they took in gigs from multiple different studios, and, we would touch and work on different projects across all platforms and such, interchangeable test teams and interchangeable everything. Actually, it was all day to day.
And just for like people who aren't familiar with QA, do you want to just give a brief overview of the role and like what it entails and what being a part of QA actually means?
Yeah, it's real simple. Every time you played a video game and you had fun, that's because someone tested it to make sure that you could.
Yeah, that is really that is kind of it. And I think I feel like people, especially with the way games have released recently, this is being recorded in December of 2023, but there's been a lot of cases this year with games releasing in maybe not the best state, and a lot of people, when games do release in a good state, it's almost entirely due to the process of QA and good QA teams and the tireless effort of these people working.
When you do it's one of those thankless jobs where it's like, when you do your job right, nobody will notice.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, dude.
And people who make decisions on these projects oftentimes see the QA departments as the first on the line to cut, the most disposable. Because again, if it's entry level in some cases, you're going to kind of just look at it and be like, all right, well, that doesn't matter as much. And if we need to make up time or replace or whatever, we can just fit that in whatever leftover budget there is or leftover time. But they don't realize that the process of polishing and cleaning up a database, and there's so much that goes into it, regression and compliance, especially, all these different elements are like kind of invisibly making the game better because, every time someone doesn't lose their save file, every time the game doesn't, corrupt your progress or lead to some other just weird, goofy shit happening that people end up clipping and putting up on Twitter because, look, your game is now more so a meme of like a bunch of weird T-posing floating characters shooting off into space, like all of that matters, and that's the direct result of more man hours on polishing, on test, on QA, on compliance, all of that stuff,
And it's one of those roles, along with like community, that often is ostracized in the game development world. and is seen as actually not game development, despite the direct and integral relationship it has with the game making process. And there can be, I mean, I'm sure you've got stories, but there's a lot of times that you'll hear about an adversarial relationship between the programmers and the designers and the actual QA team and leads.
Oh yeah, I've lived it. I mean, so just literally 2 weeks ago, I was talking on Castle Super Beast. We were looking at the story about Bungie and what they're going through now with trying to avoid getting taken over by Sony. And of course, just as you're reading through how the culture there is rough and a lot of the employees are kind of struggling, they write out there's got to be a line in there where they're like, they looked at the QA team and they called them non-devs, and it's like, yeah, so that moment, that little thing right there, you saw it echoed over and over and over again. I have worked on hundreds of video games in from testing to like various different elements, and not all of those, in fact the vast majority of them, are uncredited because it ends up either being just the logo of the company, Babel, there it goes in the credits, and that's meant to account for hundreds of people in one shot. Or if they pay extra, there's even the ability to go uncredited as a secret kind of service as well.
What?
Which is another thing that can be offered if you don't want to be, if they specifically are like, we don't want to let anyone know. Because absolutely. Oh yeah.
Dude, I've never been so upset. What the fuck? That is
make
awful
no mistake.
to learn. Holy
because
shit.
sometimes, right? What if there is, let's say you're a producer and you kind of lied your way into the position, so you're doing a pretty bad job on the project and everything's on fire, but you're really good at talking your way out of the situation, and you can kind of do that, but eventually it catches up with you. So as this whole thing crumbles around you, you still got some budget though, and there's things where like, okay, let's say the Xbox and the PlayStation versions of this game is fine, but that sneaky Nintendo version is just completely different from the others and is falling apart. So there'll be times where they'll be like, let's literally go and get an outsourcing company to put test time on this project and not tell the higher ups about it. It would literally be like okay, you're working on it, but don't, and like things like that would happen where it'd just be like, just put as many people as you can on it for like 1 week and then see if you can find anything, and if you can't, then good. And then and like, so there'd be literally like covert projects that are meant to be like unrecognized and things like that, right? And definitely there was the like, okay, so no credit to any one individual on this team. There's no credit to the company even level of service that you can purchase. And
I know a lot of times, like in game development, their video games are fucking terrible at crediting people. I did some internship work in the past for some AAA companies, and that internship work, it might have shipped. I'm pretty sure one of them actually shipped. One of the things I've done actually shipped in the game. My name's not going to be in the credits. I was an intern and I was in college back then. There's no way. Entire companies not being credited is fucking crazy. A secret charge to not credit somebody is nuts.
It's wild.
I hope it's a significant charge.
I mean, not that we would ever know.
And even then,
yeah,
of course, but also
you're not going to see any of that.
You're not. Yeah, it's not going to be a bonus at Christmas or anything. Oh my god, that's nuts.
And I mean, we're also talking about this is, there's always been thresholds for if you have a certain number of days on a project and or a certain amount of a certain amount of in the database or such, then there would be a threshold as well, in general, and that came about later, more so, where it's just okay, we'd have people, if you came and stepped in on a project for a day or two, then they wouldn't necessarily list you in, but if you've been on it regularly, you'd be in there. But I remember just in those, especially in those starting days, it was just all right, chalk it up to the pile. I've been on this project for a while, but yeah, there's absolutely no acknowledgement here. And if you did get your name in the credits, holy shit, there it is. Wow, let's celebrate. It'd be awesome. Look at that. The exception rather than the rule.
Yeah.
And to the other bit that you were talking about, the sort of antagonistic nature in general, I mean, again, so you have that side where the production side will do that, and the times when that doesn't happen, the times when things go smoothly, it often tends to be when when I was on a project or when I saw a project where the producers and managers were people that came from QA because they knew what that was like and they understood each of these steps and then like brought that to the next step. And those ones always went infinitely smoother than the ones where it was done externally or where they brought someone in that, you know, had no idea. But then there is all these like, yeah, the it sucks because the thing you want as a tester is to work as close with the devs as possible. If you can relay that there's an issue on a given platform, you know, you can save time by going right to that programmer and then working together to test stuff right away instead of having to go through a round of regression on like each of the different platforms on each different, and then it slows the whole thing down for no reason.
Basically like not having a whole game of telephone just for like one issue.
Exactly.
Just having like the direct, And
so when you're third party as well, you have to write that bug up, submit it. It has to be vetted by the lead who then sends it over to the, you know, the project producer at external, who communicates with the project producer internal, who then gets that over to the QA team, and then they might have a QA dev with them, and then like that is one hell of a game of telephone. The bureaucracy is nuts to get back and forth to fix something, and then you know, whatever. So it's so much more efficient and a better use of time to be communicating directly and efficiently in this way. And there have been times where, like, I remember, you know, one of the compliance guys I was working with was just outside, like, having a smoke with one of the devs who was freaking out because it was, you know, the submission build, and he was starting to freak out, and he was just like, your fucking testers are ruining my game. You know, they keep, our code is clean, and they keep, breaking it, and basically he basically was implying that the testers were like putting bugs
they're the ones
into
coding.
the game.
Yeah, they're the ones coding.
And it was the dude was cracking, you know, but it was one of these moments of like the concept of like, you compile the code, they look at it, you know, like it's this, you know, like, the
it
analogy
was already broken to begin with.
Exactly.
If it's being found later, obviously,
The analogy from that QA episode of the podcast I do, Woolie Will Figure It Out, was like, you know, it's like, oh, we've painted the Mona Lisa, and it's like, yeah, but her eye's a little wonky. It's like, but it's the Mona Lisa, and it's like, yeah, but the eye's wonky. Like, am I the only one that sees this? No, you know, like, and like, it's like, how dare you point that out? And it's like, but like, do you want to know or not? You know, like, there's, you know, and then it gets way worse when you take it from just regular functionality testing or localization testing, where it's like, those are the languages and translations, and functionality is basically the you know, does it work, and if so, like, you know, can you get from level to level and do all the basic intended fun things. But when you get to the compliance level, which is what I know particularly well, that's like, oh, if you don't follow this list of rules, your game is not coming out. So that's an extra stressful time, which results in extra hostility towards the team, you know, because it's that much more like money and time on the line, right?
What exactly does compliance entail? I feel like I understand, like, it's the rules that need to be like for it to be able to ship, but like, I have no idea what those rules might be. So I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Absolutely, yeah. There's terms I'll use from time to time, and if there's anything to elaborate on, I'll try to explain as best, and let me know. Compliance, the field that I specialized in for, you know, the better part of a decade, is essentially every hardware manufacturer, so be that Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, or if it's mobile games, literally it would be, you know, literally there were like Nokia and things like that, like whatever the case is.
Okay.
There's a list of rules that they all have that you have to follow, and every game that is on this platform must adhere to all of these. And if these, for any reason, fail, your game cannot come out. You have to submit your game to each of those companies, and they run through a full test of everything on that checklist. You know, for example, if you're playing a PSP game back in the day, right, and you put the game to sleep at any point, it needs to be able to resume after you wake it up without anything going wrong.
Oh, okay.
Right? If you're playing a 4-player, or if you're playing a 2-player game on a GameCube, right, you need to make sure if you plug in player 3 or 4, nothing goes wrong, you know? And each platform has its own list of specific things, and, you know, whether it's messing with a memory card.
It's like hardware it's like hardware or like OS specific things that like pressing the Windows button, not Windows button, but Xbox button, stuff like that.
Yes, exactly.
Like making sure. Okay, I see.
And each platform would have its own version, and you know, sometimes it'd be unique things that are only for that platform. So because of the Porygon episode of Pokemon, Nintendo was like, we cannot have anything that flashes at a rate that might induce seizures.
Oh,
For example, whereas like Microsoft and Sony didn't particularly care about that, Nintendo had extra guidelines to make sure that you don't have anything flashing at that Porygon rate because they were the ones responsible for causing that. And so they were extra paranoid to make sure that they
get
didn't
sued
again.
once and then you can't have fun.
Precisely, you know. Each platform would have these particular things, and if you failed submission, your game would have to go back into testing for another month, you know, a couple weeks or so, unless you paid extra to rush it again through. But in each one of these cases, it was thousands and thousands on the line from the project. So it was on the compliance team to basically be the final line of defense to make sure the product can be released, you know, to get it shipped.
Man.
And that like adversarial relationship isn't just this like one-off thing. It's kind of a culture of like scapegoating issues to QA, where you're kind of like the issues come from the code base that you're like looking at, and then you're just like pointing out the problems in it. And then, you know, the game devs, they obviously have pressures on them to, you know, meet deadlines. They've got a fucking build that they need to release at this certain point. And I guess like you're putting the spoke in the wheels to be like, hey, we got to go back kind of thing. And then
so to speak, you know, it sucks that there's that adversarial nature to a lot of it, but it is also different once you go external versus internal, because in third-party testing, a lot of the time, even before the client company shows up, the way the testers are being treated in that like environment is pretty garbage in a lot of cases. And in the experience I've had, you know, again, very disposable. A lot of like a lot of that, like if you're not like part of the in group, if you're not like making the right kind of like vibes internally or such, you might not have work tomorrow. There's a name on the board that might get erased, you know.
So like basically like very, very clicky.
There definitely there would be a clicky element to it. And there would also be times when, you know, like not the best hires were made, and like some people would come in and be awful at testing and or kind of just waste time. Yeah. And then, you know, it would take, if people are not catching that right away or so, then there's time being wasted as well. So it was, again, it kind of like, there are situations that would occur where like a team was hired externally that was, you know, not the best team for that job, or this company in particular didn't have a particular strong history of hiring and such. But a lot of it though, in the cases, especially when I worked with really good people and I've seen like good testers still have these roadblocks in the way, it was always because, again, that level of bureaucracy involved in the inability to directly communicate with the devs, you know, and like times too where, like I remember the language I would use on some of the bugs we taught all of our testers to use was like, when you're writing out your steps to reproduce, it'd be like, okay, press start at the title screen, navigate to the settings menu, go to the audio options, notice that the user cannot change the volume. Please ensure that the volume can be changed when the user tries to go up or down, right? And like I remember we entered like having a point where like one of the devs would come back on the bugs and be like, please ensure that your stupid shitty ass testers don't use terms like please ensure, you know, please ensure that your sarcastic ass, like, and people just like arguing with each other, and you're like these little weird hostile things where you're like, oh my God, like what are we doing here?
I don't know if that's even hostile. That's crazy.
That's like
wild
email language, you know, like the fucking type of shit like you use just to be professional. They're
pretty much
that's crazy.
Right? And and I think that like, you know, I mean, it certainly isn't perfect, but a lot of that and communication shit and stuff got a lot better when I was working internally, where I could just get up and walk over to Greg and be like, hey, Greg, we found some issues here. A couple people checked them on each of the builds. They seem to be linked So here's the bug for it. You know, I could sit down right here next to you and take a look on the thing over here and we can see what we get. And it's like, yeah, perfect. And you just talk it out and work past so much of that because you're directly communicating with each other, you know? So,
Yeah, because they can actually see you as a human.
That's it.
Yeah, it's easier to show empathy when there's a face instead of just like text.
You know,
I'm actually interested in those differences between external and internal QA because, like, obviously there's those direct differences. You're working in the studio, you're closer to the developers and things like that. But there's also, I mean, from my understanding, you were talking about like you can go into work and not see your name on the board for like who's working. Because I assume there's like a limited amount of projects that an external team will take on, which means there's a limited amount of jobs to work. Is that, am I right? Is that how that was working? And then like you kind of just flipped a coin on if you got picked or not?
So externally, there would be different projects every week. And, you know, in peak seasons, there would be a lot of work and they'd be hiring people to come in regularly and such. And then sometimes there would be less work, at which point, you know, it comes down to playing favorites and things like that. And what would be the case is for a lot of people, there's no contract offered beyond a temp one. So it was day-to-day work. You'd get a call in the morning to you know, come in. But there were eventually people who, like, if you worked for a while, you would then be offered a full-time contract, at which point you would come in and then there'd be, like, if you were one of the people that would be on like, full-time, but there wasn't enough work, you'd kind of come in and just sit at the kit and then be like, okay, read up on documents, I guess, you know, and things like that. So like there'd be fluctuations where they were not getting work. And of course that led to then layoffs and all these things that you read about. And at the same time, when they were at peak season as well, there would still be like, again, you couldn't really avoid the game of favorites, unfortunately. And you know, there were more than enough times when I remember just there'd be a wave of like just layoffs and it's like, did you survive or are you out? You know, and you'd watch like a quarter of the entire test floor just disappear into a meeting room and that's the end of that, you know? And you're like, well, I hope I'm good enough at what I do to survive this, you know? When you're internal as well, it's like if you can switch projects or work, there's other things you can generally do. It oftentimes ends up being, again, a bit more of a human experience because you're right there, but not always, right? Because again, there's still sometimes that wall that's put up where it's like, okay, you're here with us, but you're still QA and, you know, it sucks that it only some companies have started to really like pretty much stop that treatment of testers, but like and you know, and we're also seeing like some groups that are like unionizing and such, which is awesome after all this time, but it feels as if there's a little bit of tension that's always kind of going to be there that is really just stoked by management.
Unfortunately, when they unionize, they get fired. Sometimes, like with the BioWare situation with their external QA team. Unfortunately,
burn it down, start over elsewhere. That's the deal.
Yeah, that's interesting because I imagine the whole playing favorites part would culminate in a really toxic workplace where you've got the in group and the out group. And then you're always trying to, like, I don't know, you want to be obviously on the in group, but then it's like that's a whole, you know, kind of incesty situation in a way.
Yo, I hope you smoke cigarettes because if you don't, it's time to pick them up, go on those smoke breaks, and hang with the right people and chat over those breaks. Because if you're not hanging with the group that's on smoke break, you're already not even in the running.
That is so fucking true as well. I remember when I was doing internship at, I don't want to name any fucking companies actually, but when I was doing, I just said, what the fuck? Either way. Dude, my fucking brain today, man. One coffee's not, either way, I was doing internship work there and I remember every fucking buddy smokes. It's crazy. I picked up smoking because of that back then. And like basically the moment I stopped was the moment I stopped hanging out and doing my internship there because everybody would smoke and they'd be like, smoke? You want to come by? You want to smoke? You want to smoke? And then they would try to give you a smoke. It was so weird.
Yeah.
There's like a weird cigarette culture. Game to studios. I don't know, man.
Absolutely.
It's so strange.
It's how you get in there and
it's so funny.
You know, you, again, push your way through.
It's because we're all stressed.
but yeah, it does absolutely cultivate a really kind of garbage vibe in many of these situations. And, you know, I've seen people that do like like bug poaching. You know, I've seen people that will like see somebody investigating, they find an issue and then they see someone investigating it or such, and then they'll be like, I'll just beat them to the punch really quick while I'm over here. And if anyone goes, hey, what the hell? It's like, oh, did you see something there? Oh, I don't know. You know, there's like, another one is saving bugs up, because if it's like, okay, you have a quota and you have to get your 10 in for the day, and it'd be like, okay, well, I'll just like find a bunch and then not put them all in and wait and then, you know, sprinkle them out,
Dude,
distribute them over time to cover my quota.
The concept of bug quotas is fucking crazy to me.
I'm seeing a theme in putting quotas on things, from policing to bug testing. And
Yeah,
it
that's
does not
so-
seem to be the best way to measure productivity.
I don't understand that. Like, what?
Tickets,
Well, I
police
mean-
tickets being quota as well. It's nearing
Yeah.
the end of that
Yeah, it's like,
period. Yep.
Well, it comes from the top down. Like you have these people in the executive suite who want to have statistics that they can show their investors and their board and be like, look, we're doing really well on X factor. We're doing really well on C as well.
we
And the way to
found
show
a
that,
billion bugs.
yeah, is
Good for us.
to have quotas and have these statistics be really high. And even though that isn't the best way to do a lot of these tasks and breeds these really bad habits, regardless of the workplace, they still do it because it looks good on your PowerPoint.
Absolutely. And a lot of the time it's a response to, well, so again, it's like, you know, like I mentioned, there have been times where you'd like, again, bad hiring, and you'd have somebody that comes in that's not a great fit for this as such. And, you know, that if you have someone that knows what they're doing, kind of overlooking what's happening in general, then you can see that or feel that. But like, to put instead this rule in place where you're like, yep, no, we're going to crack this whip and have this mandatory amount. And so you're going to have, people like storing up all the C-class bugs they can find. And, you know, like, and if one person has got like an A-class bug, which is a particularly important one in particular, you know, but they didn't hit the rest of the 9 they needed, even though this one's big. It's like, oh, well, you know, the numbers say what the numbers say, so we got to pull you in and have a meeting about that, you know, and maybe shake a little stick at you for not hitting those numbers, even though you are a good tester and you are doing your job, you know, or whatever the case is. It's weird like that. And and for the rec, I guess like bug classes is a thing that is also part of this, where C class generally refers to small
Is it one of those like shippables, like known shippables?
So to be honest, like the definition of shippable is like anything from
Very loose.
anything from C to A class is shippable, right? Technically.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Because you're allowed to release your game, like, even if there's an A-class bug, like sometimes the game will be allowed to be released.
Nobody's gonna stop you from putting your game up, even if it's broken.
It's
Apart from, I assume, compliance, right?
So compliance is the distinction, right? And that becomes an S-class bug, right? So there's a special classification.
Yeah. Okay. So, and those are the only ones where it's like, you can't ship.
What's
So
the
basically,
SSS
anything
bug?
under.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like miracle class bugs, you know,
Style.
yeah. Once you hit, like, I remember one time I was working on a game where, like, I think it was like putting the game into sleep mode while in the middle of saving, and like after ejecting the memory card, resulted in a corrupted firmware. You know, and it was like this game not only destroyed the save and your progress, which is usually what they're trying to not happen, but it fucks up your entire system, game or not, you know. And it's like, oh, that is beyond S-class. This is like a threat to the consumer who spent money trying to not brick their console, you know.
That's how you get lawsuits.
Exactly.
Like,
That is how you get lost.
Yeah, that's it.
My
you know?
God.
But that's it. So like a C class is just anything that you can, you know, like a small graphical issue, the color is wrong on that car.
Yeah.
You know, B class would be like, I spent my currency to unlock that color and I didn't get it, so the money went, not real money, mind you, in-game currency, that is. Real money, that gets into a whole other, like, oh no, you can't But like, I unlocked enough points to get that color by completing the objective, and it didn't work. So that's a B class, right? And then A class is when I go and pick that color, the game crashes. You know?
Yeah.
And like S would be like, and it also breaks my save file, so that when I go try to load it up again, I lost all my progress and all my colors are gone. Yeah.
Triple S is when it bricks the console.
Exactly.
There's been lots of stories, and people are very familiar with this now, of crunch in game development. I would imagine this affects QA probably disproportionately from where QA sits in the game development process. Can you speak on your experiences with that kind of working hours and things like that?
One time there was crunch on a project that involved a tester working a day shift, a night shift, and then a grave shift. So that's 3 in a row, after night all the way till morning.
What is a grave shift? That's at after midnight?
After midnight.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Right. So
I've never heard of that.
yeah, so you've got your 9 to 5, right? You've got your 6 to 12, and then you've got your midnight till like 8 a.m. That's the grave shift. And
Awesome.
the tester worked a triple, and that by the time the third shift in a row was happening, there was a point where the person I was working with was trying to looking at the database, saw a bug kept getting closed and reopened, and then he'd be like closed and it'd reopen, and it just like something was not making sense, and then he was like, let me just call him to see what's going on, and not getting an answer. And then eventually went over to the dude and tapped him on the shoulder and went, yo, what's happening? Are you okay? And the guy just kind of zombie eye looked at him, and like a tear ran down his face. And he's like, okay, time for you to go. You just worked like practically 24 hours straight. That's insane. Also illegal.
Yep.
And
Yeah, no.
that, and that was
Dude.
that was the point at which like
Whoa.
they implemented a okay, you can only work 2 shifts in a row, not 3.
Right.
Even though the government already has something to say about this, but
I've seen some stuff as well, like in some studios. I remember talking to somebody around the water cooler, and the dude was basically like, oh, it's fucking awesome. I don't even need to go see my bitch wife and my kids this season because I got a crunch and I sleep at my desk. And I was like,
yeah.
I was like internship 17-year-old being told this, and I was like, oh my God,
Shout outs to Japan
that
and
is crazy.
the invention of the word karoshi, which means to literally die of overwork at the office.
Insane, dude.
The other thing about that is, was this story from the the outsourcing, or was that from the internal?
That was from
game
outsourcing.
development?
That was from outsourcing.
Okay, so with that, they would, I imagine, if they're not on a full-time contract, they probably wouldn't be getting overtime pay as well, right? Because of the way the per contract works.
So that if you're on contract, you still would get your overtime, but you'd have to hit a threshold of hours. And if they
Yeah, because that's the law.
exactly, so if you hit a threshold of hours, and then you're hitting it regardless. But if you were to have a crazy shift like that go down, and then not hit the threshold later in the week for some reason, or over the course of that pay stub, you could miss out on OT for sure. It was a very there was a lot that was like financially demoralizing and garbage about that, especially in outsourcing. Like there'd be essentially you'd be starting at minimum wage, and then kind of just like you're trying to think of like, okay, what can I do to make a little bit more? And in the meantime, they're like, how can we literally drag this further down and pay you less?
Yeah. How often does QA get mistaken with playtesting? Because I feel like that's one of those things that happens just constantly, to the point where people think that playtesting is QA.
Yeah.
And QA is playtesting.
People legitimately do. And that's the idea,
Yes.
right? So you see, like, it's that old ridiculous commercial where it's just like, hey guys, how's it going? You're testing out the new level? And it's like, yeah, you just need to tighten up the graphics on Area 5 or whatever in this this goofy video, you know? And if people like really think that's what game testing is, and then they're just like, oh yeah, it's a good time. No, not at all, not even remotely. Play testing is where you just get somebody to come in off the street or from wherever, and they try out a game for a bit, for a couple hours, and then they give you feedback on how they felt it went and what they noticed, and people observe how they play and if they looked in the right area when the game is trying to get you to look at that light of God over there, to climb the wall, or just see what people's behaviors are. The people that are standing behind them taking notes are the QA team.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
There will often be, so like they'll get like marketing involved in many cases to be the ones that talk to the playtesters, but there'll be people from QA that are also there and watching playtests occur and such. QA is not at all about like just your impressions of what you think of the game or how you feel about it. You know, QA is, your job today is to, like I said earlier, go to the settings and options menu and make sure that they all work. Yeah. No part of that day is necessarily going to involve even playing or having fun, because your job is to make sure the menus work. And you got to go make sure as well that the menus pop up and do the correct behavior in different areas. So you might have to progress a bit, or find a way to you know, if there's an ability to skip or do things to move through the game and such, you find a way to look at the menus in every level. But you know, it's a monotonous, rote, dry task that does not at all, in many cases, involve like doing the fun thing. There are testers that are like, your job is to like play the game and go through this level and find, you know, like things within the system or in the engine or the combat or so. And even that, it's like, okay, you can have fun for a while, but like if you're doing this for months and months on end, you're pretty sick of looking at the first level after a certain amount of time, you know, like it kind of really does. It's like a job is a job is a job. It's not just coming in to sit and go, fun.
And people don't understand, even when you do get those moments where you are playing the game, you're going through every level methodically. Like, you're going up to fucking corners of walls, running into them, like, can I like clip through this part or some shit like that? Like, in this combat scenario, if I spam like triangle 6 times, does the game crash or some shit like that? You know, it's like, it's stuff like that. It's not like, you know, oh, I gotta play the game. Oh, it crashed randomly. I'll write that down. Oh, let me keep playing the game until I get to the end. Oh, that was fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow or some shit like that, you know?
Exactly, right? In some cases, it's like, you know, just like you do what I call exterior collisions, which what was called, where you're just like run around the edge of the level to make sure you can't fall out of it, right? Make sure that every ledge is correct and that you don't fall forever, and make sure every wall is correct and that you don't just drop into nothingness forever.
Yeah, you can't jump over the kill box and fall forever or some shit like that.
Exactly, you know, or in one particular like infamous case, on a project before my time, there was a game that like had items that you could use to kill people, and one such item was a dildo, and that was a hilarious.
I think I know which game you're talking about.
But there was a certain platform and a moment where that was not okay, and there needed to be a dildo pass where testers had to run through the game to find every instance of a dildo in the game to make sure that it was removed, because that was deemed not okay. And of course, there was almost everyone found except for the one hidden behind a wall that was destructible. You know, but you totally have these types of things where like it's not just like run through and have fun, you know. And a lot of that in particular, I mean, I feel like you asked me about crunch and I kind of just replied with like a story, but the real comment on that, which ties into this as well, is that like, especially during times of crunch, you'll just see like it's again, it's the most mind-numbing thing that you have to do for hours and hours and hours on end, and you have to go harder and faster and like, you know, spend almost like less time reporting and more time just doing the I Love Lucy style chocolate going down the conveyor belt. You know what I mean? Like it's it's immensely demoralizing and brutal. And I think too as well, like when you're working at a studio where if you are internal and you know that the dev team is working for a Metacritic bonus, you know, like if you remember those from
oh my god, I do remember those.
Yeah, right. So
dude, those were a huge
Wasn't
thing. Like
Red Dead 2 didn't get their Metacritic bonus because it wasn't over 89 or something like that. I can't remember.
85 was often the magic number that I remember.
There's some projects that I remember talking to some devs on licensed projects, and they were like, "Oh, our bonus we get if we get above 60."
Yeah,
because it was like the company would aim for Metacritic scores.
Yeah,
and that's a thing that happens a lot. Pretty much every game has a Metacritic score attached to it, which is fucking insane.
So just
such an insane concept.
Your income, your ability to, you know, provide for the fam and whatever you're going to do this year just is tied to what Je France thinks of the game when they get that early copy.
Yep.
Hope you got more than an 8.8.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is just crazy because like a lot of these decisions for if the game is going to be good or not aren't like directly, you know, you can't trace that to one person or like one, like even one division really a lot of the time. It's just on like, you know, like, did this resonate? It doesn't invalidate your work, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like,
yet you're completely right, but it's the only way that a board of directors can understand the quality of the product that
it's
was
numbers,
released.
yeah.
Because they don't
They're not gonna play the game, dude.
They don't understand any of that.
Yeah,
exactly. Go listen to any of the Nintendo investors calls that Iwata had to deal with back in the day, and people just being like, "Hey, my kid's playing on the phones. When are we going to play the Fortnite on the phones for?" And it's like, "We're Nintendo. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, please understand, sir.
Man.
Like just like the level of just the board of directors has to answer to the investors, and this is a giant group of people that have no idea what the actual product is or how any of this works. You know, they're looking for their quarterly returns."
A quick clarification. I was wrong. It wasn't Rockstar. It was Obsidian, and it was for Fallout New Vegas. They got a Metacritic score of 84, and their entire team got denied their bonus for that game because they didn't get 85.
Crazy.
Yeah. So there have been so many Metacritic bonus stories across the industry, to be honest. Like it is.
Yeah.
That, you know. But yeah, that's often just an extra little bit of gravy, a little extra stank you can put on it when your regular crunch time, you know, and then you can then go back and label it BioWare magic or whatever you want to call it.
Oh God, that's the most pernicious, like gross thing where. I think people who work normal jobs get this taste of it where. And it's like pervasive in any kind of industry where the company or whoever you're working for will try and frame your overworking, your like sacrifices you make as, you know, like, oh, we're a family. Or in games I find they use your love of video games and your passion for what you're making as a way to say like, well, you're doing this because you love it. You're sacrificing because this is what you want to do. This is what you're passionate about, etc., etc.
Yeah. That angle is so real. It's so real. The like exploiting the fact that you are passionate about this thing, right? And if you oftentimes are, you know, when you're going to work at a particular company that makes the games that you love, for example, you're gonna like that'll be baked in. You're a fan of everything that they're making. You're in there. You want to be involved, and that makes it all that much more exploitable. You know. You know, I mean, I remember when one of the slogans for the outsourcing company was "Your parents were wrong." You know, it was just like, you can get paid to play video games. You know, like that's the whole bit.
What the hell? Oh.
And it's just like, and but you're not going to have a fun time doing it.
That slogan is like right out of a Nintendo Power from the 90s, dude. What the fuck?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my god.
No, a lot of the industry does like revolve around the idea that like, yeah, you care way more than they do, and to your detriment, that's going to mean you want to do a really good job, and you're going to put in those extra hours in that time and try to do everything you can to really, feel proud about the art that you're creating with all these other people on the team and such. And if they're just like, look, man, we got to hit those numbers by quarter 4, it is what it is. That person that doesn't care is also the decision maker, Yeah, that's the story, time and time again, I mean, I do feel again, though, that like, there are times when there are examples and things where you start to see that like things do get better when there are teams that are more aware of this, when there are people that again have worked from QA and came up where they touched every aspect of a game, and they are used to seeing it from all different sides internally. And when you have testers that are not ostracized and treated like just othered, weird, like, ew, get away from me, or you know what I mean? Like when you have the ability to go and directly just, be a coworker with the dev. And I've seen that work out great, and it's just, I think I'm optimistic that like there will be studios that have these examples that then are able to make better games, and if they're, especially if you're looking at independently funded things as well, like they can just cut out a lot of that, like, the said boardroom garbage that we're describing, where like a publisher steps in and gives no fucks about any of this, and or a recently acquired company is just coming in and looking at like, well, again, I just described what's happening with like Bungie and stuff. Perfect example, where like even further people outside that, like, you have the out of touch people currently describing the testers as non-devs, and then you have the even further out of touch people coming in that are now trying to buy this group, and it's like a million steps away from hands-on the project.
Yeah.
We're just got to wrap up in a little bit, but just as like a final thing to go into in a question, I'm just wondering about your exit from that, because you said you worked in there for like a decade. I want to know, was it like, did it just get too much? Or was like, YouTube stuff picking up and you're like, okay, I can do this. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, so I mean, for like, I basically switched over. I did 6 years externally, and then I switched over internally. And when I eventually switched over, it was basically a point where I was doing full compliance at IDOS Square Enix, and the videos and YouTube stuff was starting to pop off as well. And like, as I was doing both things, there's a point where, one gives you joy to think about and to work on, and then the other crushes your soul when you wake up in the morning and go to do it. And you're just kind of like, you go do what you got to do, and then as soon as work's over, like you're like, oh, I'm excited to now go work on this, the YouTube stuff, And there was a couple years of doing that, where it was for about 3 years, until it wasn't just that feeling was hitting its like highest peak of like, this feels bad and this feels good, and this is killing me and this is giving me life. But also the money coming from YouTube was now comparable and even to what was I was getting while doing testing.
Yeah.
And there's essentially a point where it's like, okay, this is based on, or it's approaching it, right? It was approaching it. And it's like, okay, this is based on me being able to put in what hours I can outside of work. So in theory, if I put more hours into this from here on out, this could only go up, right? And so you kind of like take a gamble and hope that, it'll stay where it's at, and that by putting in those hours that you're reclaiming from leaving, you'll be able to grow it from there. And it turned out the gamble was right. And that was, just about 9 years after I had started, when I made that jump.
Was it difficult at the start to balance between working QA like full-time, I assume, and then also trying to start your like career online?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember there was a lot of like struggling to try to figure out like how to go about it online. I mean, so, you know, fortunately there was a couple different things. The main thing was, of course, Best Friends Play had started at that point, and I was kind of joining as the third person there. And, you know, there was a bit more group projects happening from that channel. At the same time, I had another series called like Fighterpedia, which was like a fighting game related show that took a lot of time and editing and as well back in the day. And it kind of would be like, you know, the rest of my day spent on this would just burn you the hell out, so that the next day at work you kind of were feeling it. But again, you're hoping for it to pay off. You're kind of just pouring yourself in double, you know, if you want to, God, you want to quote some hustle culture for a minute, right?
Good stuff.
All right, guys. Hey, listen up. 9 to 5 pays the bills. 6 to 12 builds the empire. Get on that
vomit.
Sigma grind set.
Nasty.
So I was on my Sigma grind set.
Yeah.
Oh God. After work, and it was pretty hard, but it was about 3 years of that overlap before it was like, all right, we can try this and take a leap of faith, see if it works. And
Sweet, and we're all the better for it. All right, thanks again, Woolie, for joining us. It's been enlightening and interesting. I hope you had a good time as well.
Absolutely. Anytime I have the opportunity to let the trench warfare that was QA see the light of day, I have no problem bringing up my war memories and sharing them with you all.
Before we let you go, is there anything you wanted to shout out or point people to?
Sure. I am over at WoolieVersus on YouTube and on Twitch. I stream and Let's Play video games on a regular basis, all different kinds of old classics, current games, and fighting games in particular are where my passion lie. And I have a podcast called Castle Super Beast. You can check that out every week as well. And I'm Woolie Wolves on Twitter.
Thank you for coming on. We're sorry for bringing back trauma.
Welcome back to Press Stop Turbo. Welcome to the community half, where we're going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid 3.
Brendan's rearing for it.
Welcome back to Press Start Turbo. This is the community section where we're going to be talking about Metal Gear Solid 3 as chosen by the Patreon. You can go vote on not the next game, because that's going to be Stalker, but the game after that. You can vote for that one on the Patreon.
Yep. It's going to be up. The choices are going to be up by the time that this episode comes out. So if you're part of the $5 and above tiers, you can go check it out.
And also, if you are a member of the Patreon, go head over there and go submit your questions for Stalker. We'll be talking about which specific Stalker are we playing again?
Shadows of Chernobyl.
Shadows of Chernobyl. So yeah, if you guys got any comments, questions, stuff like that, feel free to go over there and we'll talk about them.
We'll discuss. 2004, the year of Metal Gear Solid 3.
I just want to figure out how much has everybody played, because I've played the first 2 acts. I was planning to finish the game, and then Tekken 8 came out, and I didn't finish the game.
Pretty much same. I've only played it yesterday because I was very sick when I came back from MagFest. I got pretty bad con crud, so I only played it yesterday. I played up to what's his name? The Pain.
The Pain?
Yep.
Nice.
The
Pain. Jake, how much of Metal Gear Solid 3 have you played? And when was the last time you played it?
I have played the whole game quite a long time ago, like probably 10 years ago now. And I've played like half of it very recently. So
very fresh.
Yeah, very fresh.
We are going to have to go into spoilers, by the way, for people who do not want to get spoiled on this game. Well, spoilers up to The Pain, because I'm pretty sure I'm like the one who played the least.
Well, speaking of the person who's played the least.
I played 15 minutes of the 3DS version 8 years ago. So that's
we've got the most qualified
The biggest MGS fan.
for
He's
discussion.
He's
Do I play
Hey.
this on the new 3DS with the little nub, or should I play it on the old 3DS? Which one's better? Wish they had an OLED version. Maybe play the Legacy Collection on Vita.
oh my god. So what version did people play? I played the Legacy Collection on PS3, the Bluepoint
Same.
one, original one, with the analog buttons, because I learned this like pretty much because I played Metal Gear Solid 2 like a fucking few months back, and that's how I learned that the controllers for PS2 and PS3 actually had like analog buttons. I did not know that, and I'm gonna be honest, probably the worst version to play because of that, because not gonna lie, this game has the shittiest controls. I fucking hate the controls, dude. I don't give a fuck. Dude, I don't care. Metal Gear fans, your games play like shit.
Whoa,
There are-
not all of them. I will defend
Not all of them.
MGS5 till the day I fucking die. That game plays
Not all of them.
perfectly.
I'm gonna be on before I get angry comments, I'm just gonna say like of course I'm over the top right now, but I do think Metal Gear Solid 3 has issues with its controls that make
certainly.
it very hard to get into it.
I played the Master Collection, which is the one that released last year on the
Yes.
and I played specifically the PlayStation 5 version. Generally, just because I heard that it had some of the vibration like features, which like it made use of the DualSense. Which after playing it, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I would say
Never mind.
It's only really used in cutscenes. It's not really used in the gameplay. I thought it would be like you would have resistance on like the triggers or something like that, but it doesn't.
I want you to know that when you said that, for some reason in my mind, what popped up was when you remember in Until Dawn where it uses the light bar and you have to hold still. And I was imagining you as Big Boss hiding behind a tree, and then like a snake woman comes out from behind the tree and you're holding the controller steady.
That would have been
That
epic.
happened, right?
I would have like that exactly
I've been
that.
crazy.
But the most you get is like I think you can feel some rain patter maybe when there's a cutscene, which is cool.
Well, they called Metal Gear Solid 3 Skinwalker because like Peace Walker comes after, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're down with the lingo. I would agree with you, Billy.
This game I've owned. It's really weird that this is the first time I touch it, because I actually own this game 4 times.
What?
Because I have 2 copies of the original Snake Eater on PS2, 1 copy of Subsistence, and the Legacy Collection.
Jesus
Because
Christ.
people, every time I told somebody I've never played Metal Gear Solid 3, they'd be like, let me get you my copy, and then they give me their copy, and they never ask for it back. So I just kind of have a bunch of copies.
Oh, you've stolen.
And also, no, well, I guess I keep forgetting that I even own the game, so I keep buying the game. But now I've played it, and we're recording, so I'll definitely not forget. One thing that always makes me laugh, though, is on the back of the original Snake Eater PS2 box, it says, "Epic musical scored, composed by Harry Gregson Williams of Shrek fame."
Awesome.
Holy shit, the
I'm-
correlations between Shrek and Metal Gear Solid. Can't wait for Snake to be in the DVD menu games.
I'm dead ass. He has like his credits on there, and it's like Shrek, Armageddon, and The
my
Rock.
God.
But Shrek is the first one. Like Shrek is like you. Dude, I don't
He's
know why
fucking
that always made
Narnia.
me laugh. Yeah, dude. The soundtrack is incredible.
Wait a minute. Did you just say Narnia? Billy, do you
Yeah,
have
he
that
did.
counter ready?
What?
Mr. Tumnus time.
Oh, it's Tumnus time. It's Tumnus time. Yes. Can I go through my experience with the game real quick? It's not going to be
absolutely.
too long, but so I fucking hated this game. I've never I started the game, and everything about it made me so upset. I remember like I started it, and the cutscenes were so self-indulgent and so masturbatory, and it really lost me, and I just completely hated it. The entire time I remember, I can't remember exactly what line. There was a line that I think Snake said, and I just out loud said, "Oh, brother." Like it is so, because it's so like, and also it does the thing that I really hate, where somebody mentions something and then Snake will be like, "EMP, what's that?" oh, Snake, EMP is an electromagnetic pulse. And then they'll explain it for like 5 minutes. And they do that for everything. CQC. What's CQC? Close quarters combat. Snake
PALSPHERE,
constantly. Oh my, shut up. No Palworld. No Palworld. But I was having a terrible time. I could not wrap my head around the controls because I'm going to be honest, the tutorials in game are not great. It does feel like this game aged not great when it comes to the controls. I kept getting caught and it was driving me crazy because I was sneaking behind them and I wanted to do the fucking CQC slam, you know? And I kept getting caught even though I was like slowly moving towards them. And you know the factory at the start of the game when you have to rescue Sokolov?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was stuck on that part of the factory for the longest time because I just kept getting fucking caught. And the moment you get caught, there's like 20 guards that just fucking bolt towards you. And then you're kind of fucked because there's not a lot of hiding places in the factory. I messaged Ed and I said, you like this shit? What the hell? Like, I feel like I know I'm doing something wrong. Please explain to me what I'm doing wrong. Why do I keep getting caught? That's when I learned that to sneak around, you have to use the D-pad.
That's what I was gonna say.
That drove me fucking crazy. Because the thing is, the animation for when you're sneaking with the D-pad and when you're slowly tilting the stick up is pretty damn similar. I thought it did the same thing.
No, it's a completely different like stance. Really,
fucking drove me crazy. I haven't had gamer rage that bad in years. I was literally going to fucking break my controller. I was getting so mad. And the moment Ed said that, I cleared the factory in like 10 seconds. And I did a complete 180 on the game. I fucking love this game. I went in completely hating it. And the moment I had the time with like talking with some friends about like, okay, what am I doing wrong? There's definitely something I'm not doing right. Immediately, it like clicked because then I could actually like practice proper CQC and do all these like fucking crazy spy moves. It changed the game completely for me. Learning that the D-pad was how to sneak. And listen, I'm going to be honest, I cannot remember if it was said in the tutorial because the tutorials happen while the conversations happen, and those codec calls are so dense with information. I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if I just missed something.
So, Billy, have you called the codec on your own, or have you only ever like answered the codec from like Major Zero?
Is that a thing I was supposed to do?
Yeah, so the way the game tutorializes things is basically there are like mandatory codec calls, and then after you get them, you can call Major Zero back, especially in those that in the Virtuous mission, which is the first mission of the game.
Yes,
if you call
it's basically
him back,
the tutorial.
He will explain to you systems, button presses, CQC, how to do different moves. Also, from what I've been told by Ed, the original PS2 copy came with a manual, which is like incredibly important for the game.
That is the thing he told me. He said, "Don't you own this on physical? Grab your manual and look through it." And then what I did was I went to one of my many copies of the game, opened it up, and there is literally I have the manual with me right now. There's an introduction. It's called like the introduction manga. It's a little manga with like panels that explain to you how to do the moves in the game with visuals, as if you like, and it even explains like things like the CQC slam, things that can be used as food like fruits, snakes, mushrooms, birds, whatever. And after having a little look through, I immediately clicked. I think this game might have the worst tutorialization of any game I've ever played. I'm sorry, but it's really bad.
I would agree if I didn't love the way the codec worked so much. I think it's.
The thing is, I never clued in to that.
Yeah.
And I feel like my experience. Listen, I might be dumb as fuck, but I feel like I'm probably not the only one who didn't think to call Major Tom again. Because why would I?
Yeah, I think...
Like, why would I know that I have to call him again?
I think if the game maybe, like, said at the start...
Just
like,
nudge him a bit.
Nudge me, be like, man, if you ever need anything, Snake, or you need to learn something, just give me a call. That might have helped. But the way it does work in the game, where, like, even when you go to a new area and you're, like, not sure about where you're supposed to go or something like that, or what your objective is, like... there are so many different codec calls in that game that it does. Like it has one for, you know, when you like in that first mission, like when you get Sokolov, then you call, if you call Major Tom again after that, he'll be like, oh, you should go this place. Like, oh, watch out for these guys.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest, because I got to the pain, because I'm gonna be honest, I was gonna stop after rescuing Sokolov, because I was like fucking so angry. I kept going, and I didn't know where to go. I just kind of explored around, and I didn't know that you could call to get information about the objective. Which I feel, I don't know. I feel like the game should have maybe pushed it a bit more on the player. Be like, hey, if Snake, seriously, if you need to know what your next objective is, maybe call me. Maybe I missed that. I think it did do something like that, but it might not have, I mean, it for such an integral part of the game to like understand what you're doing. It should be pushed a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. But this is, we've got to put it into the context of when this game came out, though.
Yeah. I'm not asking for hand holding. I'm asking for like, because I'm like, if the game just says like, if you need your handheld, call me. That's all I need. That's all I would have needed to be fine at the beginning of the game. But listen. There's a happy ending here, like I said.
Major Tom's just calling me a dick again, huh?
God, you're pathetic. I just wish that the game pushed the tutorials more, and especially because I learned after the fact that there is a tutorial menu in the main menu under special modes. You have to go to a menu called special modes, and that's where the tutorials in-game are. And that's only in the Blue Point versions and on. I don't know. I feel like the game has a lot of moments like that where it feels like I don't know. I fought against it. I kept going. Like I really wanted to enjoy this game because all my friends love this game. One of my close friends, when she transitions, she picked her chosen name as Eva, and I know that Eva is from this game. So I was like, well. And she mentioned it like, no, it's absolutely because of the character in this game. And I was like, I wanted to do that extra push to see like if it's this significant to somebody that I really love in my life, I would like to at least know why it's this significant. And I'm glad I did, because like I said, complete 180. Love the game. Probably my favorite Metal Gear Solid I've played. And I'm only at the pain, and I'm definitely going to keep playing.
I actually also know someone, and I won't say their name, but someone who, you know, adopted a new name that's not their birth name. And they chosen name. And they also chose a name from Metal Gear Solid. So that's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, no, it's cool because it like playing through the game and like meeting Eva and like actually like learning about the character and her motivations and everything and her philosophies, and then it feels like I know my friend a bit more because I played this game, and that's why I really wanted to push through all my gripes. And I'm glad I did. Do you did your, because you mentioned at the start how masturbatory the cutscenes are? That doesn't like go away. I actually really like that. I think it's but I okay. It never goes away, but I think the moment where there's a moment specifically, because I don't know I don't know how, but I basically like haven't seen many of the memes around Metal Gear Solid 3, and I learned after the fact. Ocelot meowing at random moments. That's when the game like really the stupid self-indulgent shit. When he did that, dude, like I'm saying, like my opinion on the game turned around so quick. When that made me laugh so hard, and then it actually kind of kept going, and I realized like, oh, like when I made jokes about, because I've made this joke a billion times, Metal Gear Solid 3 or Metal Gear Solid is Kingdom Hearts for boot kids. When he meowed, I had this moment of like, oh my God, my joke is real. I had no idea how real the joke I was making is. And you know, I started appreciating more as my frustrations with the controls like left. I started appreciating the game for what it was way more. And I started appreciating it for the singular vision that it is, because there is no fucking game like this. It is such a fucking...
Yeah.
so unique. It's think kind of wild.
I think that is really the key with Kojima's games, right? I have always thought all the way up till the present day, till Death Stranding, that Kojima is kind of a hack. Like, like his
I wouldn't
writing,
go for hack, but I would go for like, he's way too self-indulgent.
He's self-indulgent. He's his writing is like a cat walking on a piano. like when he's like, especially his use of like themes. You know, like the way that he includes like serious topics right next to something fucking stupid is really like, sometimes it can be genuinely off-putting. But the thing is that like, even though his writing would be like considered unacceptable by any sort of modern standard of, you know, if Kojima was just coming along today and was trying to get into a career in writing, he would be, there's no way.
He'd be laughed at.
He would be laughed at.
But that's the appeal, right? That because he was in the games industry so early, and he was pursuing like, you know, high budget cinematic style storytelling, because he would rather be making movies, it seems. Because he was in the right place in the right time, and now that means that he gets these massive AAA budgets to make games like Death Stranding. That's why he's valuable. You know, like it like part of the value of his stories is that they are kind of like bad and messy and like they ramble for ages about just random crap that seems to be sort of circulating around in Kojima's head, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's sort of mastered this campy style of pastiche where like Metal Gear Solid 3, it's trying to be a Bond kind of spy story on the one hand, but the other thing that makes it Metal Gear Solid, all of the like Kojima-isms that get mixed in with the Bond formula, that's what makes the game so great and so intriguing.
It is.
Even if it's often like way too self-indulgent and way too long in the tooth, and like, you know, the cutscenes go on forever and characters just never fucking stop talking.
I would say as well, for me at least, with MGS3, there's a sincerity to the way it's written that doesn't...
It's very
like,
genuine.
Playing Death Stranding and stuff like that, in a lot of ways, it's like very self-serious and trying to be a bit pretentious. Whereas this, in its like attempts at capturing these themes while also having silly B-man and fucking dude with long tongue who goes invisible, like you have this like really like this guy's like he's like really trying to like do this thing, but he's also like, but wouldn't it be cool if this guy with 2 revolvers started doing fucking cool tricks, you know?
I know.
and
I love that. One thing that I hated it at first, but then I warmed up to it because it's so silly and it's so genuine. It's so fucking genuine. One thing that also just in general for me, I've been trying, because there's a lot of the way we can, like in the West, we consume media is very, I feel like I've had this discussion before, but I'm not too sure on this podcast, but a lot of the ways that we interact with the media around us in the Western sphere is very cynical. Like, we're so cynical about fucking everything, always making fun of things that are, trying to show like genuine emotion. And I have been trying to get better at that and trying to like leave myself open for like to the media that I consume, especially when it's media that is like, I mean, best examples, Kingdom Hearts, Metal Gear Solid, a lot of JRPGs, which I adore. They always like are super genuine and super like hard on its sleeve shit. And Kojima does that very well, even though I'm going to be honest, I want the codec calls to be shorter sometimes because holy shit.
I also want to talk about the cinematics just in the context of like when this game came out. And obviously I feel like MGS2 is the one that everyone always points to in terms of the defining it. But like, holy shit, the camera work in MGS3 for a PS2 game.
Dude, one of the coolest things, actually, I took a note of this because I realized that at one point, like the camera in game, it's not just a camera, it's like a physical object in the world. Well, I don't know what the name of the beehive guy is because I haven't gotten there yet, but the bee guy, at one point he like throws bees at your oh wait, no, that's the pain. What am I talking about?
The pain.
Yeah. The pain throws like bees at you at one point, and the bees start crawling on the screen and shit. Like the camera in game is actually an object in the world. And I think that's such a cool touch. It's so gamey, but it really adds to the entire game.
Oh yeah, that's like the other thing about this game is that it's so incredibly detailed. There's so much small things, like you do, like the fucking all of the endemic life that's just all around.
Yes,
all the fucking
absolutely.
snakes crawling everywhere, frogs and fucking rats, and
they all have like. Yeah, and sometimes when you eat them, there's like a whole cutscene that is just
disgusting.
Did you get the cutscenes where
yes,
the cutscenes where he just starts fucking munching on it for like 30 seconds?
Yeah. They're fucking long as shit. The sound effects are terrible. Like
I know it's such a like. Whenever it happened, I wouldn't skip it because it's
fuck no.
cool.
I don't even know how to skip it.
It's circle.
All right, sweet.
I've only skipped one. I've only skipped one because it was getting late, and I was like, I gotta go to bed. Fucking, can you fucking
bandaging yourself for 30 seconds? Watch as you
gotta
like
start
rip it off.
faster.
And
yeah.
how does the fucking 3DS version, like the 15 minutes that you've played, Brendan, like, because you haven't said a single thing. Because
no, you talked about Palworld, remember?
you did
PALSPHEREs. I don't know. I was at like I auditioned for Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and one of the kids is playing Metal Gear Solid on the 3DS, and I said, dude, that's sick. Can I borrow that for a second? He's like, sure, you can play it for a little bit. So I played it for a little bit. I was like, yeah, you can walk around the forest. He's got a gun. This is fucking awesome.
So one detail about the 3DS version, it's the only version where you can crouch walk like you can in Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5.
Oh, that's
Peace
actually
Walker, right?
something.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Oh, wait, Peace Walker? Did Peace Walker have the crouch?
Peace Walker had crouch walk, but you couldn't like fucking, what do you call it? Like prone walk or prone.
Oh,
like. So
weird.
it was like MGS3 controls, but you could only crouch walk, and yeah.
They rebuilt MGS3 in the Peace Walker engine to put it on the 3DS, and so it has crouch walking.
Oh,
yeah.
It's also the only Metal Gear Solid game where the end is completely naked.
What?
They had to put
That'd make that boss fight easy.
He's wearing flannel pajamas, and he farts loudly, and the butt flap flies up and down in the wind.
That's true.
Is that real?
True. No, that's true. Yeah, that's 100% true.
I never know you printed.
No, it's 100% true. I mean, you can always check it by going on the eShop and getting the game.
Oh man!
If you put the retail prices for certain Nintendo games inside the codec as the codec, Snake will say shit like, Mario, huh? Pretty cool.
I wanted to say about the gameplay of this game.
Yes.
I find that before Metal Gear Solid 5, these games really struggled to incentivize me to play them as stealth games, because getting spotted is so punishing. Like getting spotted means that either you run really far away and wait for the alert to stop, or you
and
just...
the alert takes fucking forever. Oh my God.
You do that, or you just deal with it and just like go loud and start shooting people. And I think that for me, that was too easy to fall into. And so I just stopped playing it as a stealth game. And like, I remember the very first time that I played the end boss fight, I just ran around with an AK until I found him and just shot him in the face. And which is like, the end is like one of the most famous boss fights ever, because it's supposed to be this really lengthy, quiet sniper battle, but it's too easy to play these games in a way that is completely opposite to how they want you to play them. And I think that Metal Gear Solid 5, by sort of streamlining itself and you know, the controls are really good, and the open world sort of multiple directional approach of everything, I think MGS5 really sort of incentivized that stealthy play a bit more effectively for me. And so MGS3 I kind of just remember as the game that I run around like a stupid headless chicken and completely avoid playing it like it's meant to be played.
Yeah. And also, it's not like the game doesn't give you like a stupid amount of bullets.
Yes.
Most of the playthrough I've done, I tried to go stealthy because I felt like it would be the most fun, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter or make it more fun or less fun. Honestly, it's just kind of the same experience.
I really like stealth games, so I tried my best to, and also because of like what we talked about earlier with the controls, and playing on PS5, the difference, it doesn't obviously have the pressurized or the analog face buttons.
I'm gonna be honest. I slit so many throats by accident.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Because that's why I was saying earlier, like, you might have played the best version, because if you want to play at least the best version, if you don't want to fucking be a psychopath and kill everybody by accident, like, you have to press the circle button. And I guess I didn't realize how fucking strong my button presses are, because I kept just slit throats constantly.
Yeah, because it's hard press down of circle is how you slit someone's throat, whereas it's an entirely different button on PS5. I think I've got to like press triangle while I'm doing it.
It's easier to not kill somebody.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering if what would Metal Gear Solid 3 be like if instead of releasing on the PS2 it waited a little bit for like launch PS3, and now I'm just thinking about 6-axis MGS3.
Oh. We can only dream.
But
Sneeder.
Does MGS4 have like
Does it have
weird
6-axis
goofy shit with the 6-axis? Yeah, does it?
Is it like Lair? Is it epic
was
like Lair?
Yeah, because I know that every early PS3 game had literally had to have fucking 6-axis.
Do you remember Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction?
I barely. It's been so long, but I remember when you fall, you have to use the 6-axis. That's all I remember.
The thing that I would wish changed more about MGS3 was the ability, once you're spotted, to become like to vanish. I'm not necessarily saying the caution. I actually like how long the caution period is, because it changes up.
Really?
So
I hated it. I thought it was way too
well, it's
long.
to incentivize. I think the game design choice behind that is to incentivize you to keep trying
actually move.
Yeah, actually move around while the guards are patrolling in different ways. My issue comes from like in that space in between that, once you get spotted, to getting into the caution state from where they like literally just walk over to the bush that you're looking at and just start fucking shooting you. It's a little like it's a lot harder to do that like seamlessly, and that's to me just comes down to the controls. Like to crouch versus to dodge roll is the same fucking button. It just depends on if you're moving or not.
Yeah, and also you can't crouch. You crouch and then you have like to move. You have to fucking
then you go prone.
and that's a full animation time. And by the time you prone, sometimes Snake just kind of fucking wiggles back and forth for a sec. And by that time, you just, dude, there's some frustrations with the controls that
it gets a lot better once you get further into the game and you're more familiar with it, but it's still there. That awkwardness is still there.
Yeah, you do get used to it though, like no question about it.
Yeah, and that's like one of the, but yeah, and to go back to the MGS5 point, I think a lot of the things that game does well is to do with the way that it adapts to your playstyle. Like Jake, I don't know if you know about the adaptive difficulty that game has, where basically, depending on your actions, the enemy faction guards will change tactics depending on if you're using a dominant strategy. Like one of them is the trank gun, which is like, you know, one hit headshot, they fall asleep. If you do that too much, they start wearing helmets that will
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and if you're going in and running gunning or like doing a lot of CQC, they'll start using riot shields. If you use the deployable like inflatables, they'll start using their own ones. There's like a bunch of ways the game changes to essentially force you to change up your strategies, which I think is really smart for a stealth game like that, where you in a way, like even in MGS3, like once you figure out like, okay, I just fucking wait until a guard goes around a corner, I aim at him in the head with the trank gun, he's asleep now, I then, you know, if I need to, because of the guard patrols, I'll drag him to the fucking bush or some shit. You know, you kind of get into a flow state where you're like, okay, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and that's something that I feel a lot of stealth games struggle with. That MGS5 did really fucking well, and I haven't seen in a lot of games since.
What do you guys think about the way that MGS3 gamifies survival mechanics, like the survival aspect of the game? Because that is like on the box, it is like one of the big like points. It says survival. New gameplay frontier for this game.
You know, it's crazy that you mentioned survival, because the little game called Palworld allows you to capture creatures and use them in a survival crafting experience.
Can you eat them like you can in MGS3?
You can actually eat them. You can capture people and then butcher them.
Oh,
what?
You can't do that in MGS3.
Wait, you can do that? Wait, you can do that with the actual like people in the game?
Yeah, you can capture people with the PALSPHEREs and then name them like real human names like Jeff and Pete and then butcher them. They drop
that
coins.
Could be true. That could be true.
It's 100% true.
There's no way of knowing.
There's no way. There's literally no way of knowing. This is knowledge that is just fucking locked.
Colonel, I'm a little hungry. Tell me about that enemy soldier up ahead of me. Oh, Snake, that enemy soldier looks like he provide a hefty amount of calories.
I don't want to talk about fucking. I don't want to talk about. No.
All right. I want to just like mention the one Patreon comment we got today for MGS3, which you guys can submit your own for the next game by going to the Patreon. It's from Generic Phoenix. They say Metal Gear Solid 3 was their first Metal Gear game, and it was what convinced them to play the rest of the series. The boss to this day remains one of their favorite characters in gaming, and the weird stuff that happened prepped them for some of their future favorite series like Yakuza and the banger OST. I want to say the fucking OST rocks so hard at MGS3. It's so
genuinely amazing. Shrek Guy did an amazing job.
It's like the main reason why you want to stay in caution, because without the way the game works, it has no music to it apart from in cutscenes and when you're in a caution state. So it's probably the biggest reason you would want to get spotted is because you start hearing like bum, bum, bum. You just start getting into the fucking zone and you're like, yeah, I'm a snake eater.
That opening song is fucking incredible. I'm still in a dream, snake eater. Oh
and then
my
you've
god.
got a dedicated snake eater button. It's awesome.
What?
Yeah.
You don't know about this?
No.
So, during the opening scene, if you press, I think it's like one of the trigger buttons. If you press that, a lady whispers "snake eater," and you can spam it.
What? I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so many weird details like that. This game's awesome. Oh, actually, I want to mention one of the notes. I think this is a really funny note on my while I was playing the game. I just wrote This is a game for fucking perverts.
Oh, true. Talk
Holy
about dedicated
shit.
buttons.
The R button during cutscenes is the stare at breasts and vagine button. It's kind of crazy.
My favorite part about that is even if you don't press the button, you just look at what Snake's staring at, and he's
just staring at he's always staring at a booba. Dude, Snake is a pervert.
Major, are you getting this? She's got huge tatas.
On Twitter, somebody said like, "Oh, even if you don't play the game, just talk about how gay Snake is." It's like, what are you talking about? Snake is so fucking he's violently straight. He will not stop looking at titties.
To go back to the point about the survival mechanics in this game.
Yes.
The food system is is somewhat interesting, right? Like you've got stamina, and if you run out of stamina because you haven't eaten, then you start to lose health. I think that the medicine system is not as successful because
that's what I wanted to go through as well.
Because, you have all of these different ailments that you can get. You can get a stomach ache, you can get a broken arm, whatever. None of that actually affects, it doesn't affect the way that Snake plays. It's just a matter of going into the menu, and if you have the thing that you need, if you have enough steroids, then you get to solve the problem. And if you don't have enough of that thing, then you just have to deal with it. And so that's there's the kernel of something interesting there, but mostly it's just menus. And I think that menus aren't interesting, which is why I didn't like Death Stranding.
Okay, fuck you. But I agree on the menus. There's too many in MGS3. It's
the camouflage was really annoying for me.
Every time you go into a new area and you see your camo percentage, you're like, all right, time to press start, go through, check. Oh, these ones all got the percentages. Oh, but wait, when I go prone in this area, this one has a higher percentage. So if you want to min-max the game, or play the most efficiently, you're spending
you have to be so much time in the menus.
Yeah.
It's kind of fucking annoying.
It's almost like they built these systems to be real time, like changing camo real time would have actually meant something, but since you can just go into the menu whenever you want and the game pauses and you just equip whatever gives you the maximum camouflage index, there's no game to it. It's just it's optimizing logistics.
I remember Ed making a point like that in his MGS video about the system, the menus needing to be real time for MGS3 to work a lot better, and I fully agree. Just having a Last of Us backpack kind of thing.
Yeah, the remake is the perfect time. A lot of the issues we're talking about, I know not everybody's hot on the remake, and I totally understand why, especially because the people... Kojima's not the one handling it,
Yeah, it's Konami, so
I totally get why people are, iffy on it, because I'm also iffy on it now that I've played Metal Gear Solid 3. It's man, this singular vision, I don't know if you can pull that off again, but...
People are mad there's no piss filter.
No! All I'm saying is, fixing the controls and making a lot of the menu management real time can do so much for this game. It can fix pretty much most of the issues we have.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared about it because I think if I was to bet, they're going to be very faithful. Maybe the change that they would make is you can crouch walk, if I was to guess. But I do agree. I hope they make more significant changes.
I hope they modernize it proper.
Yeah, because I think that would be... Because honestly, there's not much value in going and making the game as fucking faithful as possible, but it looks like it's a UE4 demo.
Yeah.
I would much prefer if they tried to do something really...
Is it on UE4?
No, it's just the lighting and the color grading makes it look like it's a very... because they've gone for that realism kind of slant. But I think it would be way more interesting and way more valid if they've like took the bones of the game and then put a new face on it.
I do think it's worth like I have interest in that game, even though it's worrying that it's not the original creators, you know, because they can absolutely make this fucking incredible.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Brendan, any final thoughts on MGS3?
I like that you can turn the computer off and then the old guy dies. That's pretty funny.
That is pretty funny.
What?
Oh, do you not know about this, Billy? So there is,
I don't know anything about this game apart from what I played.
It's following in the trend of like the MGS1 like Psycho Mantis fight where you change you know plug the controller into PS, you know, the Kojima kind of loved doing this shit back in the PS2 era where it would be like weird esoteric kind of fourth wall breaky things. So because the end's really old, if you just
okay, when you okay, no, that's one of the things I knew.
If you leave the game for a week, you come back.
That's
and
actually
dead.
I mean, that's one thing they actually kind of, because while I was playing it, there's one codec call you get with oh my god, what's her name? It's the save lady. What's her name?
Paramedic?
No, paramedic. Fucking paramedic. Dumbass
Kojima
name.
loves naming
Oh
people
my God.
stupid things. Fucking die hard, man.
Paramedic actually at one point is like, oh yeah, if you close the game, Snake will just have a nap wherever he is, and then he'll wake up afterwards when you come back. Very funny, very fourth wall breaking, and it made me think of like,
now
oh,
I'm just imagining a version of this game where you set it down for 20 years and he wakes up and it's fucking Rip Van Winkle. Like,
no, you're just playing MGS4.
Old.
Just
yeah. So that was Metal Gear Solid 3. Yeah, no, I'm going back 100%.
I'm gonna beat the game for sure. I actually like this game's so charming.
It's very addicting too. Every time I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put it down, something happens in the game that is just so interesting and so weird that I can't help myself but to keep going.
Yeah, it's a classic.
I gotta go find that kid with the 3DS again. I wonder if he's still playing.
No, he's got the Palworld 3DS port now, and you can.
That's not even a thing. Palworld is exclusively on Steam and Xbox Game Pass.
That's true.
They got a sex pal in there.
You're stupid for even mentioning that.
But I thought they had like Omega Sapphire and Omega whatever.
Did you know that number 69 in the PAL Dex says that they fuck people?
They have a PAL Dex?
Yeah, there's a PAL
Dex.
Dex.
That's
Brendan, how much of this have you played?
13 hours. I wish they bring. I hope. Hey, Palworld devs, let me talk to you for a second on this podcast.
Can you
about
add
Metal Gear Solid
some
3 and
dubious
like
weed?
news? Nah, I need you to add the Unity asset gorilla that you used in Craftopia.
Oh my God,
just
yes!
as a pal.
Yes.
If you could just add the Unity asset gorilla from Craftopia into Palworld, I will buy 4 more copies.
It's so good. I love the Unity asset gorilla is so fucking charming. We got to bring him back. I hope they use him for the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3. Are there gorillas in the jungle?
Right.
I guess there are.
I think we'll fucking close it out there. Before we go, anybody want to shout out anything? Any projects or any cool things they've done recently? Smile.
I was on Castle Super Beast I'm actually going tomorrow, but the episode that came out yesterday of Castle Super Beast, I am going to be on that. So if you're interested in seeing the long-awaited Castle Super Beast Please Stop Talking collab, check it out on Woolie's channel, WoolieVersus, or I think he has the VODs on the Castle Super Beast Twitch if you're a sub.
I am Nova Canoe on YouTube. I don't post, but
What a good sell.
Video.
You just made a video, and you have another one coming out in like a week, don't you?
yes,
Fuck
I
you,
just
Jake.
What the fuck are you?
I just posted a video for the first time in years about Alan Wake 2 and how it's a good game, and it's a good game. And you should watch my good video.
You're so bad at selling yourself. All right, Jake made a video that's an introspective on the ending of Alan Wake 2 and its subsequent patch that changed the ending, and it's a very good video and it makes very good points, and you should watch it.
Thank you. I also have one coming out. It might be out by now. Who knows? About Doctor Who, the 60th anniversary specials.
Is it going to be out in 2 days, Jack?
No.
It won't be
Then
out by
no,
now.
it's going to be out soon though.
We do know.
Okay, we do know.
Brent did. Smile.
Yeah, I showered yesterday, so it's pretty cool. I want to promote washing your ass. Please make sure if you are a gamer and you start to stink, then wash over to the goddamn sink, rub a dub dub, and get some grub.
Also, a really quick shout out to washing your foreskin. If you have foreskin, you should definitely wash it. Because, all right. Hey, thanks so much for listening. This episode would not have been possible without the help from our patrons, such as Alan Diver, Arta Vaughan, Beck Davis, Bier, Bland But Funny, Boo Pulu, Brain Soup, Caffeine Addicted Chemist, Chris Chapman, Christian Van Engen, Delling City, Dog Named Bear, Dreams of Ice, DX Studios, Eric Scott Gillies, Ethereal, Generic Phoenix, Guy Beam, Handsome Destiny, Hater 115, John Requires Lasagna, Kawaii Boy Toy, Lambda, Leo the Geotech, Loudon Woodworth, Mr. Shirt, Random Diamonds, Rocco the Raccoon, Smeet Mono, Spherical May, The Frost Ace, Ulbert, Winnie Rab, and Will 9455. I have a cold. I'm going to bed. See you guys soon. See you soon. Schedule's not out yet.